What's up, folks? Well, here we are, another week, episode 11 for you guys and girls out there. And we appreciate everyone who's tuning in live for our show. I'm awaiting my co-host to come on, but before he comes on, of course, the Eagles find a way to pull off the win. Incredibly enough, they're also in first place with a record of 1-2-1. Just goes to show you how bad the NFC East is. But regardless, I guess the right word to use would be that the Eagles at least pulled off the victory. It's better than going, I guess, 0-3-1. So 1-2-1, we'll take it. And this week, of course, are facing the Steelers up in Pittsburgh. I believe there's supposed to be some rain in the area, so we'll see if maybe that'll hinder the game a little bit. But still, we got some injuries, notable ones to talk about. Of course, Alshon Jeffrey, he's still out with a foot injury. Also, he was at practice, according to what Doug said on Friday, but also now out as well because of some illness, and it's not COVID related. The Eagles did not disclose what was wrong with Alshon Jeffrey, but I guess as the game progresses or as the reports this morning progress, we'll find out. Deshaun Jackson, also just a clip of him on the sidelines holding his helmet. I'm not too sure if he's going to be active or not in the game so far. So we'll see if he's actually going to be active or not in the game. As far as I know, right now he is inactive for the game. But we have a couple of small businesses we're going to welcome here shortly. And again, hopefully my co-host will come on shortly as well. We also like to thank everyone for liking, sharing the page. We really do appreciate it. Of course, the folks down there at Tampa Joe's, which is affiliated South, you can see over my shoulder here, the Eagles fan club run by Mike Klein. He's in his 25th year of running the organization, and it's a lot of fun. If you make it down to Tampa Joe's, it is a lot of fun. And of course, Tampa Joe's is our official sponsor of the show. So with that all being said, well, let's get the show underway. I am Angel, and this is Broad Street South Sports Talk. So welcome everybody. Again, it's episode 11, and we do have a jam-packed show for you guys today, and that's why we're on a little bit earlier, because we have not one but two actual good invited guests. The first one being Adam Bittner. He is a digital sports producer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He will break down the Eagles and the Steelers game coming up here in just over about 2.5 hours. Also, we're going to have James Seltzer on from 94 WIP Go Birds. He will be on the second half of the interview. But a lot of fun with both gentlemen. They gave a lot of great input to the game. So we can't wait for both of you guys to come on. Adam Bittner is actually still a writer for the Daily Collegian for Penn State. He is a Penn State alum, and he even shared with us a little bit of history as far as when it came to Jerry Sandusky. So all that will be coming up shortly here on the interview. But again, we appreciate everyone who likes and shares a page. You know, it goes without enough saying thank yous, because without you guys, the show doesn't happen. And with that being said, thank you so much to the 886 views that we got for episode 10, 196 views for the halftime show. It is much appreciated, you guys. And again, thanks to Mike Sherman. A lot of the guys that go out there and just share the page, like the page, you know, the comments that you guys make. We really do appreciate it, and keep the comments coming, because without you guys, there is no show. So we do appreciate it, and entirely from the bottom of our heart. So keep it up, you know, keep liking, sharing the page, keep letting everyone know, and we'll just keep bringing fresh content. So with all that being said, of course, the show can't be without the show, without my co-host. So here, as long as I can bring up shortly, comes my co-host, Mike Fuji.
Morning,
Yo, Mikey.
Hey, how are you?
Good, yourself?
I'm on my phone right now.
Well, either way, let's see if we can get it straightened out. But at least you're on. We're live, of course, and you know it'll get a little bit better. We just hope. Well, here we are again, episode 11. We're doing the best we possibly can. Things happen. It's live show, folks, and sometimes things don't work out the way they're supposed to, but it's okay. We keep going through it. By the way, speaking about live, later on when you hear the interview with James Seltzer, it may sound a little echoey, and we apologize for that. It will get better. We're just trying out new things, and unfortunately, when you try out new things, things do happen. So we appreciate everyone's patience and appreciate all the views. Mike, we're going to talk real quick here, I guess, about the Eagles before we introduce Adam Bittner. from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But along with that being said, because Mike actually chimed in at the right time, we're going to talk about these new small businesses that we're introducing. One being where Mike is on location. If you guys want to go see him, he is over at Maggie's on the waterfront. Maggie's on a waterfront cafe. They're off of Delaware Avenue. Of course, Maggie's coming on with us to at least allow us to share the broadcast with them. And it's at 9242 North Delaware Avenue. So if you guys get the opportunity to make it down there and join Mikey. And also, with that being said, when it comes to Maggie's, and I did have it up here, so give me a second. Where did it go? Here it is. For Maggie's, they have upcoming events here. One is next Saturday, October 17th from 12 to 3, and they're calling it the Trunk or Treat. Trunk or Treat at Maggie's on the waterfront. And if you need to call them to reserve your spot, but the number is 215-637-6716, 215-637-6716 to save your spot and decorate your trunk. It's $5 admissions for all kids participating without a decorated car, and all proceeds are being donated. But for the best decorated car, well, that person will win $200 in cash. And later on that same week, they're also going to have the Shot of Southern Country Band, and that will be Thursday, October 22nd at 7 p.m. So if you guys can make it out to Maggie's on the waterfront, by all means, let them know that we sent you over there, and you know, they'll end up hooking you up with some nice service. So Shot of Southern on October 22nd, and then the Trunk or Treat on October 17th. Along with that, we also have a new clothing company that's down here in Tampa Bay, and the husband and wife are originally from Cleveland. But because they've been down here for so long in the Tampa Bay area, they decided, just like any other small business, to take an adventure out there and see what they can do, or at least make the best of what they can. And with their company here, For the Bay Clothing Company, they just established it not more than a shy 2 months ago. Great t-shirts. They also have tumblers. They have a couple of different items that they like to they would like to share for you guys to buy. They do have a tumbler for your beer. They do have stickers. Obviously, the shirts that the ladies are displaying over here. The World Champ Cup t-shirt that I have seen actually out on the road, and it looks really nice. So if you guys go to forthebayclothing.com, I'm quite sure they would appreciate it. And on their website, if I can bring it up here momentarily. And is it going to come up, or it's not going to come up? Let's see. Again, the beauty of these things when they do happen. So here we go. Now the share clothing website should come up. And it's not, just because it is what it is. But anyways, if you go to forthebayclothing.com, if I can get it to work later on, as well as it should, you guys will see their website. Good branding. There it is. So For the Bay Clothing, if you guys go on their website there, a great story about a husband and wife. And again, they're taking on a new challenge during this pandemic. So if you guys don't mind patronizing the page, please take a look at their collection. They have a city collection, their football collection, hockey collection. Again, great quality t-shirts that they have, from tumblers to stickers, you name it, they have it. And right now it's just Tampa Bay related, but you don't have to be from Tampa Bay. Or if you're from the Florida area and you want to see what they have, by all means, take a look at their page. And also on their Instagram, which they usually try to do on a daily basis, is to put out messages and look at their different t-shirts that are out there. For example, if we can blow this one up a little bit, you'll see the variations of the t-shirts. So again, great quality. I think they do a great job. And if I can play a quick audio from the owner, the co-owner, because the husband and wife, this was his message about two days ago for making their 2-month anniversary. So you can play it. And of course, it's not going to play. There it is.
Our 2-month anniversary of our initial launch. Wanted to say thank you to each one of you for your support and your feedback. It's been an incredible ride, and we look forward to seeing you guys out in the Bay real soon. Raise up. Happy Wednesday.
So again, thanks to For the Bay Clothing for allowing us to share their website with them. Again, it's forthebayclothing.com. You guys can check it out. Seems like a really nice group. Obviously, some good quality shirts. So if you guys get the opportunity after the show here, by all means, please check it out. And Mikey, once again, hello and welcome.
I'm back. I'm back.
That's a great thing. So we noticed obviously that you're there at Maggie's, and I hope they fill the place. I know you were there before the doors do open, and we do appreciate Maggie's for coming on. Big win last week, even though it may not have been the most perfect win whatsoever, but at least it was nevertheless a big win.
Better to be lucky than good sometimes.
That is so true. Well, we know that Carson Wentz, he struggled a little bit, and we saw the struggles when it came to the game from the week before. Prior to that, of course, it came down to communication. A lot of it was talked about that he wasn't communicating with the line. The first half of the game, of course, when we were on last week during the pregame show, it seemed that it wasn't going to be what we thought, or at least what we thought, that it was going to be just another disastrous game. But thankfully, again, Carson Wentz and everyone else was able to pull it off. So we do appreciate that behalf. The other thing, as well as we saw the offensive line finally at least coming to life, trying to get some games. Jonathan Hightower seems like he's getting a little bit better as far as getting his reps. He's saying the game is finally starting to slow down for him, one thing he talked about earlier this week. So don't know what your thoughts are, but for me, like you said, a win's a win, and I think hopefully we're going to get better to at least pull off the victory today versus the Steelers.
I think it's going to be a close game. A good battle. Probably the two best defensive lines in. So. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think it's on my end. I can hear you. I hear myself.
So you have an echo. All right, do me a favor. I'm going to take you out momentarily. I'm going to put a clip that we're about to watch, and then come back, and maybe that'll take away the echo.
Okay.
Right. So Mike will come back on with us here very shortly. Again, folks, when we go live on location, the tough part is that you have to depend on the places where we go to, which is kind of tough because you are doing it Wi-Fi. And so things do happen, but we appreciate everyone's patience. Again, thank you for the 886 viewers that we did have last week. We really do appreciate it. So the Eagles are trying to do the best they possibly can. We know that obviously Doug was a little upset, rightfully so, for what's been going on. Jim Schwartz with his defense. Things are trying to come together, and maybe this week during practice, it's paid off. But if we could take a look, we're just hours away again from the Steelers game, and we're just going to do a quick recap of what we saw last week from the Eagles versus the 49ers.
Don't do nothing else. Just do your job. Don't do nothing else. Just do your job. Every single over and 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 over again. I promise you. Let's go. Hey, you already know what it is. 1, 2, 3. We don't get. We all see. Woo!
So that you got to get, a little pumped, a little motivated. And I think this week we can at least feel that we can breathe a bit as fans, again, as podcasters, as well. There's a little more to the excitement where at least Carson Wentz is doing the right strides to at least get better. Again, I touched on a little bit earlier on that Jonathan Hightower seems to be having the game come to him as he stated. It's slowing down for him. I think we're going to see big things. I'm expecting at least this week a lot more confidence as far as the win. Of course, Doug, he talked about during the week that as the guys, the running backs, the wide receivers are all trying to get the reps. Alshon Jeffrey, again, he's out. Sean Jackson, I have no idea when his return is, but he's trying to make the line click, and I'm drawing a blank. when I'm thinking of somebody right now. Oh, Jordan Mailata. So the big talk this week also with Jordan was that Jordan Mailata was told that he's going to get at least better and that he may stay in a position where he is. But then Doug kind of almost looked like he was second guessing himself when he said it, when he stated that we will see when Jason Peters gets better, they'll make the decision then. I don't know if it comes down to just loyalty, what it is. But again, when it comes to Jordan Mailata, I think they should leave him in. He's doing a fantastic job. The only way you're going to be able to improve the left tackle position is to leave the right man in there.
Oh, exactly. Why take a man? Just going up against three today, and it's going to be a big between today and Baltimore next week. Coming.
We hope that Tom. Good morning. Hi guys. Thank you, Tom, for the comments. Again, if you guys want to comment during the show, by all means, in the live comments, we do appreciate it. Again, Doug Peterson, one of the funny things from last week, when after the win, again, not throwing shade at anybody, but he kind of took a little punt as far as saying thank you to the fans because for being impatient. So here's Doug with his thank you message.
Thanks for the positivity. I appreciate that. Thanks for the positivity. I appreciate being upbeat and energetic today. And that's always great. That's always great. Short season. We've played 3 games. Hasn't been our best. We're excited about this opportunity. It's another week to get better as a team. Look. We love our fans. We love our fans. Nobody's satisfied. Fans aren't. Players aren't. Nobody's satisfied with where we are. Even if we were 3-0, you guys wouldn't be satisfied. So we're still working every single day to get better. We have some new faces that are going to be playing, particularly at the skill positions now. And look, it's my concern is about the guys in the locker room, getting them prepared to play. Taking our bubble across country and protecting our guys and competing.
To hear Doug is, he's feeling a little more confident. He knows there's a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. And the Eagles also know this as well as an organization. There's a lot of room for improvement. That's for sure. And we just hope that that is going to help. It's going to end up helping them. There's too much echo noise and you can't tell what's being said. Yeah. Unfortunately, said, I don't know, Mike, it may be on your end down there, just from everybody, I don't know, moving around or so. I don't know if it's going to make it any better try to, I guess, unplug maybe your headphones and go on the speakers and see if it's any better. It may be coming from your headphones.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So hopefully maybe it'll go a little bit better. Again, thanks for the comments, you guys, because again, live shows are tough on the road because you're dealing with a lot of noise in the background. So hopefully it'll get a little bit better as we go along here. So Doug started saying things that are improving a little bit in that quick clip, and I'm losing a little train of thought here because of the little audio issues. But Doug said that he's feeling a little confident. He knows there's a long way to go. And that he hopes that his team will continue to improve. Don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm pretty sure he nailed it on the head.
Can you repeat that again?
So Doug said that he's improving, as he sees improvements from the team. That he likes what he's seeing, and that it's getting better, but they still have a long way to go.
Team has a lot of stuff to work on. Secondary. Varsity, line. I mean, there's a lot of them to go around everywhere. I mean, if they come out today and be that's a big win. I mean, they're 3-0. I don't think they really had any.
We hope more than anything else that they can pull off the win. I think they can, barring obviously many injuries that the Eagles continue to have. We just hope that they just do a lot better come this week. Maybe get actually that explosive start that Doug's been waiting for. So we'll see what happens there. Tom says there's an echo on Mike's end. So I don't know, you can't hear anything?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. My producer's saying that she can't hear anything. I guess from the echo must be really bad. So I'm not too sure.
No. I'm gonna turn off and come back on.
Yeah, give it a shot and see what happens there. So give that a shot and then come back on with us. All right. So I'm gonna take y'all here for a minute and we'll come back to you. Again, so going back to what Doug said, we have another clip here from Fran Duffy, and Fran was stating that he likes what he sees from the Eagles as well. Travis Fogelman, of course, looked a lot better than what the Eagles even perceived what he was going to end up looking like. So we're going to go to Fran here, show the clip, and then we'll come back and talk a little more Eagles talk before we bring on Adam Bittner.
What's up, Eagles fans? Welcome into the Hyundai Drive of the Game. I'm Hyundai Drive of the Game. We're going to break down one of the most important of this football game, the first win of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And really, it started with a Cravon LeBlanc sack. All right, that gets the Eagles the ball really deep into San Francisco territory. What I loved about this drive, though, for the offense, they had a couple negative plays, some really disastrous plays that could have taken them not just out of touchdown range, but out of field goal range. But the Eagles offense showing that mental toughness, that ability to get through adversity. They fight back, they get themselves in position, and now you get this touchdown pass from Carson Wentz to Travis Fogelman to really put this game away. You're going to see here, they're just going to run a vertical route with Travis Fogelman down the left sideline. You've got a couple of other vertical routes here for Carson Wentz. The big thing I want you to notice is we let this roll. The offensive line did an outstanding job of creating a nice soft pocket for Carson Wentz. You see Jordan Mailata left on an island. Nate Herbig standing up against the first round pick. Javon Kinlaw. You got a wall of white jerseys on the right side as well. 3 versus 2. You see the wall that Carson Wentz has in front of him. Step up and deliver this throw. A 42-yard strike, perfectly in stride to Travis Fogelman. The Eagles take the lead here on that touchdown, on the ensuing kickoff. They get the ball back to San Francisco on the first play. Alex Singleton takes it to the house on a pick six. So you've got that nice little sequence there. You've got the Cravon LeBlanc strip sack. You've got the touchdown throw from Carson Wentz to Travis Fogelman, and then the pick six by Alex Singleton. That puts this game squarely in the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they go on to win 25-20. We will be covering this game from all angles on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. Make sure you tune in wherever podcasts can be found. Thanks so much for joining us on the Hyundai Drive of the Game. I'm Fran Duffy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Tom, thanks for the heads up there, saying that the video is echoing. Again, we're trying to deal with the software issues here as far as the echo. So hopefully the video clip got better towards the very end there. Again, Steelers, Eagles, 1 o'clock. We have a bonus show for you guys today. Again, we welcomed Maggie's on the waterfront, and that's where Mike Fuji is out there live today. So if you guys want to take a ride, a walk, if you live within the area, by all means, go out there and, at least welcome Mike to Maggie's. And again, thank you for the Bay Clothing Company for allowing us to share their website and their clothing. I think they're going to do good things, and they're up on a 2-month anniversary, so we hope that they continue their small business as well. And Tom says now it's not echoing, so I appreciate it, Tom. And again, things do happen, and we're trying to work on things. It's just the way it works sometimes. So, of course, we have coming up here, we will have the interview with Adam Bittner. I'm going to pull it up here. Hopefully, without some of the echo will come through the Adam Bittner interview. Hopefully not too much, but it may end up happening because of the issues that we had with the mic audio quality. So we're hoping to fix that. But we're going to bring up the Adam interview shortly. Of course, after Adam, we're going to come back again, talk a little more Eagles talk. Hopefully, Mikey will be a little bit better off on his end as well. And with that, we will also we'll come back shortly as I try to get all the windows here straightened out. Hopefully things will get a little bit better as far as with the audio quality when it comes to Mike's audio. So hopefully we'll fix those audio issues. But coming up next, of course, we have Adam Bittner here from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He took the time out to speak with us this week as we break down a little bit of the Eagles and Steelers matchup. So we're going to go to that clip, and we will see you guys when we get back after the interview. All right, so we get into more Eagles talk, of course, and we just got off not too long ago with James Seltzer from Go Birds, and we have another guest for you guys, of course, because we like to share the wealth when it comes to anything Eagles related, but also with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it is an in-state rivalry. So this should be interesting coming up tomorrow, game time. And the time, of course, you watch the interview, the game is about to start here, but coming out with us, Adam Bittner. If you guys do not follow him, he is on Twitter under the handle FujiMaster24. You can follow the digital sports producer. Also, if I can bring it up here so everyone can follow along, actually. Here we go. So you have Adam Bittner, digital sports producer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I don't want to say it too fast. And also the Daily Collegian for Penn State. He has, of course, if you click on the link, here comes a link here for a Daily Collegian for Penn State. So all the Penn State fans, and it's an independently published by students at Penn State. And we got talking a little off camera, and we were just talking about some of the moments at Penn State. But again, if you guys want to follow Adam, you can click also on the link that he has on his handle, bring you over to Daily Collegian. And if you also click on the other link, you will see where he works for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which we just found out that he's going on his 7th year. So with majority of that being said, of course, the big highlight will be come tomorrow is the Steelers versus our Birds. And with that all being said, we're going to bring Adam on here. So we welcome Adam to the show as soon as I can get rid of that one. There it is. Adam, welcome so much, and thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy, and we do appreciate the time for you coming on with us.
Hey, guys.
How you doing, Adam?
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Oh, you're welcome. Well, we got, of course, it's also college sports time, and it's been a weird year. Everyone knows, and the schedules haven't been the way it normally would end up being. Some other time, I'm pretty sure we can get into college sports, but we hope that Penn State will have as everything falls into place as far as the season starting, everything else. Hopefully, Penn State will do just well. And I want to get your take a little bit later on. Speaking of kind of college into the NFL, about Bill O'Brien being fired from the Houston Texans. I'll leave that for a little bit later on. But if you want to let everybody know how long you've been with the Gazette and how you got started in the business, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so I started at Penn State in 2009, fall of 2009, and immediately started working at the Daily Collegian, the student newspaper up there. Got involved with the sports staff, did a little copy editing, and then was our football editor. So, I could team like a beat reporter would, for any, professional newspaper, traveled to all the games. It was quite the experience because we kind of talked about before the show. That was in the middle of the Jerry Sandusky years up at Penn State. So it was a tumultuous time, and there was a lot of change. But there were also a lot of good stories to tell. So, it was an interesting time to go to school there.
Well, it's I would imagine it must have been nuts. I know we talked about it a little bit off mic here, but the good and bad is obviously I think it was a lesson learned a lot from on the college level, and that goes to every university. Obviously not just Penn State alone, because I know a lot of the formats were changed as far as the backgrounds, people coming forward, and it almost certain wasn't there a Southern team that almost had a similar situation. Now that I think about it, I could have sworn it was somewhere down south where it wasn't as crazy as Penn State, but something that someone knew. One of the coaches had done something, and I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't want to say, but it was somewhere down south where someone knew of a player being, I think it was mishandled or something. I would have to go back and think in the archives what ended up happening. But thankfully, I guess the good thing is that with Penn State, they moved on from it, and thankfully for you, at least, it's a major learning experience, something I'm pretty sure that you had to deal with in your own way. But the great thing about it was that it showed you how to, I guess, write for the media, learn from it, and then maybe even educate other people that didn't know as far as the whole handling of Jerry Sandusky and how that went versus what you do now. So hopefully, I mean, things worked out better, and it's hopefully in your past, even though it's a looming memory.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. As you know, it was trial by fire as far as professional training goes. You know, you don't; those are once in a lifetime stories that you end up covering it. You know, when you get to the end of a career, and you know, who knows if I'll ever cover a story like that again. And I think you're right. It was a major learning experience for hopefully everyone, because as we've seen, you know. I can't specifically recollect a school that had a similar situation, but you know, there's been scandals of a similar nature at Michigan State and Ohio State since then, and you know, I think the reality is that these are you know, things we have to, uncomfortable things that we've had to deal with as a society, but that hopefully we've learned a lot from in terms of reporting and in terms of taking allegations seriously, and you know, I think it's. You know, it was obviously a terrible thing that as a society we've learned from situations like that.
Adam, how would you describe back during the Jerry Sandusky situation, almost 10 years later? How would you describe it post back then?
In terms of like the impact or my feelings about the situation?
I would say both.
You know, I think Penn State has done a lot of good things to move on. I think Joe Pa's always going to have his major supporters who, you know, sometimes I've wondered if a lot of people were more into Joe Pa than they were into Penn State all those years, because they seem to be more committed to him than they are sometimes to the university. But I think, you know, I think Penn State's really largely moved past that at this point. You know, James Franklin has obviously got the program rolling in a think it's, you know, it was obviously a terrible thing, but I hope that as a society we've learned from situations like that.
Adam, how would you describe back during the Jerry Sandusky situation, almost 10 years later? How would you describe it now as opposed to back then?
In terms of like the impact or my feelings about the situation?
I would say both.
You know, I think Penn State has done a lot of good things to move on. I think Joe Pa's always going to have his major supporters who, sometimes I've wondered if a lot of people were more into Joe Pa than they were into Penn State all those years, because they seem to be more committed to him than they are sometimes to the university. But I think Penn State's really largely moved past that at this point. Franklin has obviously got the program rolling in a great direction. And so I think it's kind of brought the community together around, kind of a new era up there. And, a lot of the students, especially up there now, they don't remember Joe Pa. They're, they were 10 years old or maybe younger at the time that this all went down. So, I think it's really about building a new positive community. In terms of the situation, I don't think, my personal feelings about the situation have changed all that much. A lot of those revelations at the time kind of shaped the way, I feel about the situation. So I don't know that times really changed it, but, we'll see. That could change. Who knows what 10 more years will do.
Right.
Would you say the recruiting now goes back to when you went is a lot better now?
I would say it's better than before the scandal, actually. Those later Paterno years, I think, Penn State was lucky to be pretty good every 3 years because they just weren't, churning out those recruiting classes every year. They could still get a great class, and once those guys turned into seniors, then they'd be dangerous on a national scale. I think James Franklin has made the recruiting, as good as it's consistently been probably since the, mid 90s, late 80s at Penn State.
Now, how was speaking of James Franklin, what was the feel like when he came on board? I know, Bill O'Brien stayed there abruptly, went from the Patriots to Penn State, then decided to take on the Houston Texans, which of course he was let go this week. But so how was the feel? Was it much different from when Bill O'Brien was there and James Franklin made it just that much more better, or that people, were kind of shocked and surprised from the early exit from Bill O'Brien?
I don't think anyone was ever shocked that Bill O'Brien moved on. I mean, he did a great job at Penn State to hold the program together. You look at Florida State. I mean, that's a program that wasn't sanctioned at all. And we have multiple examples of power conference teams that fell off the wagon a lot harder than Penn State did back in the day when the Sandusky scandal happened. And that's because of Bill O'Brien. That was because of his leadership. And I don't think things have worked out great for him as a general manager. I think he's made some questionable moves, but as a coach and as a kind of executive of a college football program, the results he had at Penn State were beyond reproach in my mind, just because, he knew what he wanted to do. He knew what he had to do in that time. And he executed the plan, and he kind of laid the foundation that James Franklin's been able to build the program on since. My first impressions of James Franklin honestly weren't that great. I think he was pretty bombastic, and I felt like those first couple of years he was really trying to sell a program that shouldn't need to be sold, and I think that might have been a reaction to where he'd come from at Vanderbilt, where he had to get people excited, he had to get buy-in to the program. So he was a salesman down there, and I think it took him a little while to realize that he doesn't have to do that at Penn State. Penn State is a tradition-laden program. It has a dedicated alumni base. All he's got to do is focus on winning, and I think he's really, done a great job of not only bringing talent to Happy Valley, but, getting it to the cusps of the college football playoff multiple times now. You have to take the next step, absolutely, but I think Penn State is more of a perennial power now than it's been at any time since the mid-'90s.
So if from what you believe as far as like Bill O'Brien, as you were just talking about here recently, what do you think is the next move for Bill O'Brien? Does he become a head coach somewhere else? Does he become an OC coordinator? I mean, does he take a step back from the NFL? Because I know he has his family, his one son that he takes care of probably more than anyone else in his family. But I know for Bill O'Brien, he's not going to stop as far as being in football. So is the next move from another head coaching position or maybe a front office spot?
I think he's definitely a football technocrat. I don't see him. I think the reason he ended up not doing as well in Houston in the latter portion was because he tried to be an executive. And I don't know. I think he's more of a football technocrat. I think he knows the game better than you. He's forgotten more about the game than the three of us combined will ever know. I think, if he focuses on that, I think he's still great. I'd be surprised if he's not a head coach again. I think he might need to do a rehabilitation of his image as an OC somewhere. preferably not in New England, lest anyone, just say, oh, it's just another Belichick retread. I don't know. I think he's a brilliant guy. I'd be surprised if he's not at least an offensive coordinator again. And I think at some point, there's enough retread coaches in the NFL who've done much, much less than Bill O'Brien's done in this league. So I would be surprised if he doesn't, end up leading a team somewhere else at some point in the next, maybe 5 years.
Do you think he would go back to the collegiate level as a head coach?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think when he was at Penn State, he always talked about the NFL as, the pinnacle of his profession. Maybe some people were surprised if you weren't with him every day, but I was not surprised when he left because that's what he was working toward. And, he gave his best effort to Penn State, but you knew he wanted to be in the pros. And I think, he doesn't need to prove that he can be a head coach anymore. He has a track record of success in the NFL. I think he just may need to, work under another head coach, maybe learn a little bit, from another head coach and see if he can translate that into an even better step back.
That'll be good. And we hopefully because again, I know sometimes we do lose track of what we're supposed to be doing to do other things, but hopefully, Bill, I could definitely see him somewhere else. And who knows? I'm pretty sure there's other teams that want to get rid of their OC coordinators. I'm pretty sure he would fit in with the Giants better than the guy they picked up from Dallas, me personally. So I think that'll be an open invitation for Bill up there in New York. But, who knows? We'll see. Tomorrow, of course, we have the Steelers coming on, and it's an in-state rivalry. Hasn't been done too many times, of course. So it's huge when it happens. It's just as big as obviously when the Flyers and the Penguins play. And I think the biggest in-state rivalry of all sports in Pennsylvania. But Ben Roethlisberger, he's been healthy. He's been looking pretty good so far this season. Does he stay healthy and in for the entire season, or are we going to see another exit from Ben? So far, it seems like, his conditioning, he's been doing the best he possibly could with the short amount of time, but he's been looking fairly well so far with the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this is a guy who's taken punishment his whole career. He's played almost all the games of, he's never really had significant injury issues. He might miss a game or two. He's had suspensions, but he's taken a lot of abuse and he's a tough guy and he plays through it. If they're losing, he tends to let he's hurting a little bit. But he's a tough quarterback. I think, last year it was a situation where he just couldn't throw a football. And there was no other choice. And it's, my understanding, having read more this offseason about, how things progress, is he's had issues with his elbows for, a long time. And so in that way, you kind of hope if you're the Steelers that he might even be a little bit stronger than he's been in a while. So, I think the question is, how does he hold up over a long season, stamina wise, not necessarily injury wise? Because it's been basically, 2 years since he played through a full NFL schedule. Can he be as sharp, in week 15, 16, 17 as he is now? Can he be, ready to go into the playoffs, should the Steelers make it this year, and have the same kind of vigor? Because a lot of people are comparing this season to, 2010 when he was, 10 years younger, and because they're off to such a fast start. Can he hold up like he did that year where they made, obviously, the deep run to the Super Bowl before losing to Green Bay? I think that's the thing that I'm watching more so than his health, because I think, that guy will be out there, unless he physically can't.
Right.
How would you say the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is now going forward without Antonio Brown the last couple seasons?
I think that's still to be determined, in part because we didn't see Ben Roethlisberger last year on the field for the Steelers. So we don't really know how he's going to work with these receivers over the long term. I think there's been some promising results. I think they have the ability to distribute the ball better than they did in those later Antonio Brown years. And then obviously the Le'Veon Bell loss, you kind of wonder. I think James Conner's a great back. The question for him is, can he stay healthy? So that's kind of the position that I'm most watching, because I think the Steelers have enough weapons for Ben to work with. The running game just needs to be better than it was last year for him to have something to work off of. So, I think James Conner's health is central to making that passing game work without Antonio Brown and with Ben Roethlisberger back in there.
So bringing up Le'Veon Bell and Mike is talking about Antonio Brown, was it just bad chemistry, or was it they just didn't feel like they were welcome, didn't get enough reps? Like, what was the deal that they made the Steelers seem so bad, even though for those of us who lived in Pennsylvania and have known the organization for the longest time that they have, I think Art Rooney is pretty much, in my opinion, the most fair owner that you can ever have in the NFL, obviously other than Jeffrey Lurie. But what was their main gripes on the reason why they just had to get out of Pittsburgh?
Well, I couldn't begin to tell you what Antonio Brown's central issue was. I think it was an ego thing. I think you've seen him, combust since he left this. He's been with two teams since the Steelers, and he found a way to get cut from both of them, while playing only one game. So, I can't begin to try to understand the Antonio Brown situation, having been, I follow his Instagram. I've watched him every day, and he's just a crazy guy. And I think it's hard to make sense of that situation. In terms of Le'Veon Bell, I don't think I ever personally had a problem with the way he conducted himself. He wanted to be paid, and I think he misjudged his own value to a pretty breathtaking degree, considering he ended up taking, less than the Steelers had offered him to go to the Jets. So he gave up, a year of making, about $15 million under the salary cap. So I think he was, he made a dumb career choice, but I think he was, I don't think his teammates ever resented him, or I don't think he was ever the locker room cancer that he was kind of portrayed to be nationally. I think he just wanted to get paid, and he went about it in a pretty stupid way. But listen, man, the running backs only get so long, and I think he wanted that guaranteed money. In the modern NFL, I can't blame him for going for it. I think his method was just the questionable part.
Very true. I just had a question about back to the Antonio Brown situation. I think it was about a year or two ago, James Harrison came out and said that Antonio Brown just wasn't the same player, I guess, once the Steelers traded him to the Raiders. Do you think this maybe CTE had something to do with it?
Well, I'll tell you, that's the popular theory in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you guys remember the playoff game against Cincinnati, where he took that shot from Vontaze Burfict. And he never really seemed to be the same after that. They made that, I think the following year, they made that deep playoff push to the AFC Championship game before they lost to the Patriots. But he was making headlines then. He was taking out Facebook Live in the locker room in Kansas City, and he taped Mike Tomlin. I mean, that was a big controversy, and then it never really ended with him. It was always something. And I don't know if, I don't think CTE is the type of thing you can trace back to one hit. I think it's something that builds up over a long period of time. I think that's what the science tells us. But it really just did seem like a light switch with him after that fateful night in Cincinnati.
So what's it, Mike Tomlin, and I don't know if he's had the opportunity to meet him or not. And I know he's tried year after year, obviously, winning the Super Bowl several years back, but it seems like he wants to get Pittsburgh, like any other NFL team, back to the limelight. And he's been doing a fairly good job. I mean, the defense, I believe, is ranked number 1 this year for Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly. And when you're looking, he just seems like a very hard knocks coach. Have you ever gotten the opportunity to meet him? And what's your feel? Like, how many years you think that even the Rooneys will give him as far as extension? Because I know they gave him 1 and he's coming up on another one. But what's your take with Mike Tomlin and the way he's been with the Steelers?
I haven't spent, much time with him personally. I think, I've seen a lot of him, what anyone else would see. But listen, I think he's a player's coach. I think a lot of people in Pittsburgh don't like that because it's such a hard-nosed town, because you have this reputation of, Bill Cowher's Josh shooting out, on the sideline. And, Chuck Noll was nicknamed the Emperor, and Mike Tomlin is decidedly not that. And I think with some of the egos that he's had to deal with in recent years, at some points that got away from him a little bit. But I think, he's never had a losing season. He's never had a bad year here. People get mad when the Steelers go 8-8. think about what he did last year without Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
Really, it's not just without Ben Roethlisberger because, as Philly's shown us, if you have the right guy back there, you can keep a good team rolling. But the Steelers definitely did not have the right guy back there last year. Both Mason Rudolph and then, Duck Hodges arguably isn't even an NFL quarterback, and he somehow got that team to 8-8 last year and, within a whisker of the playoffs. So I think it's hard to question his results in a lot of other cities in the NFL. If you live in Pittsburgh, he has his critics for sure. But I think there's a lot of places, we're talking about Bill O'Brien. We think he'll get another head coaching job. I think if the Steelers ever fired Mike Tomlin and he didn't want to go the Bill Cowher route of going into broadcasting and never coming back, Mike Tomlin would have another job instantly.
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to agree. Bringing up the picture I showed here beforehand, you got James Conner, the running back, and obviously Miles Sanders for the Eagles. Looking at the numbers, 224 yards, 236 here for Miles. And this is, again, for the 2020 season. And it's still early, so obviously these guys can still explode. And, of course, the Eagles have had their fair share with the injuries this year, just as much as Pittsburgh. But we know that it's always the next man up mentality. But these two going head-to-head tomorrow, I might give a slight edge to Sanders. But you figure what Pittsburgh's got – trying to think of the running game. But they've had last week. I didn't get too much of the opportunity to watch the game, but have they been more on the ground this season than they were versus last year? I know last year they pounced on the ball a lot as far as running, more running plays than actually passing yardage. But has it been still the same mix this year with the Steelers?
It's been a pretty decent mix. I think the running game has been kind of inconsistent. I think back to that big play Connor had. He had a 100-yard day against Denver, but I think half of it came on one play, so it's been fits and starts with the running game, and I think there's still a lot of this offense has never played with Ben Roethlisberger before, so I think it's hard to get a feel on what their identity is going to be. I think they're going to be more conservative than they were in the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell years, just because they have that defense backing them up now. That was something, there's a luxury that the Brown and Bell teams never really had. So the pressure is not on them to score 40 points to win. It's kind of more in those. I don't want to say we're back to the game manager days of Ben Roethlisberger early in his career, where he was just trying to not screw up, just score enough points to win. I think they have enough weapons, and I think he has the know-how to be a little bit more than that. But they don't have to take as many risks. So I think they're still kind of trying to figure out what the overall total identity is going to be of this offense. I think, if the pass is prologue, then we know when James Conner is playing well, then everything else with this offense tends to fall into place. And so I think it's just a matter of, can you actually get that balance right such that Conner's going to have room to work with and not, as he was in a lot of points last season, just kind of plowing into defenses that were loading up to stop him because they weren't afraid of Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges.
Right.
Adam, would you say the offensive line of the Steelers is probably their weakness this year so far?
I am. If you're going to ask someone in Pittsburgh media, I'd probably be the closest one to telling you yes, because I think a lot of these guys are – the metrics have been questionable for a couple of years now. I don't know how much of a numbers guys you are, but I know that the metrics, the advanced metrics, have not always looked great with this offensive line. I think they're really inconsistent. I think when they're playing well and they're locked in, they can be one of the best teams in the NFL, and their primary job is to protect Ben Roethlisberger. That's why these guys are being paid. That's why the Steelers have invested so much in that offensive line, because they're trying to protect their aging franchise quarterback. They don't want him to take that career-ending hit. So I think they do a pretty good job, especially in terms of protecting him. In terms of run blocking, I think they can be inconsistent. But again, it all comes back to for me to what the quarterback situation was last year versus this year. I think Ben can make them look better than maybe they are at this stage in their career. I think Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro is still a Pro Bowler. I think in some ways Marquise Pouncey kind of operates off of his reputation, but he's still very athletic for a center, kind of in that Dermontti Dawson tradition with the Steelers. Al Villanueva has been a guy who's been much maligned lately. Then you got a couple of new guys mixing in. Matt Filer this is going to be his first full year as a starter. And they're still kind of trying to figure out that right tackle situation after losing Zach Banner for the year. I think it kind of depends upon how locked in they are. I think you can get a great game from the Steelers offensive line tomorrow, or they can, they're inconsistent in a way that I don't think I've ever seen from an offensive line that I've watched, as closely as this one.
As far as Alejandro Villanueva, he was actually signed by the Eagles by Chip Kelly back in the 2014-2015 season as a defensive end or tackle. The Eagles released him. I guess he converted to right tackle, if I'm correct.
I think he's on the left side.
Right.
Yeah, and look, he's been a useful lineman for the Steelers. I think he made a Pro Bowl, which is nothing to sneeze at. Although sometimes they start digging pretty deep to get some guys to go to that game these days. I think this year who knows if they'll even have it? Who knows if anyone's going to actually want to go? But look, he's been a nice find for them. I think he's getting up there a little bit, and he takes some dumb penalties at times, and I think that's why he is not the fans' favorite guy. But when he's locked in, he can be that Pro Bowl type of guy. I think it's sometimes just a question of focus for this whole offensive front.
As far as a little matchup on the Eagles offensive line, Steelers defensive line tomorrow, we have our third-year guy, Jordan Mailata, going up against Bud Dupree. I know Bud Dupree seems like he's coming to be one of the better defensive ends in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he works well off of TJ Watt, because they're more of like there's not a lot of times that Bud's lining up straight on the defensive line. He's more of he's positionally a linebacker, but he's more like that edge position that has kind of just been like a new position that's been created in the NFL, and especially because the Steelers play that 3-4. So then they have three guys like up front, and then they really do move those two linebackers around, and they are sometimes they can act as defensive linemen, and other times they're a little further back, and it gives the Steelers a lot of versatility in terms of what they can do defensively. And then obviously they're on opposite sides of the field. And I think, Bud Dupree was much maligned here for a long time because he, had a reputation for not getting home and not finishing the job and not, getting to the quarterback, but never bringing him down, kind of running past him a lot. I think things really have started to click in the past year, and those two are becoming, one of the better duos in the NFL, and it certainly helps that you have Pro Bowl caliber guys like Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt in front of them. They really just all work really well together, and they're starting to figure it out. And obviously the other big change in the secondary is that Minkah Fitzpatrick's back there, and the Steelers have really begun to figure out that secondary. So that really just it makes those pass rushes so much more dangerous. When they don't have to worry about wide open receivers running wild downfield. That gives them more time to get to the quarterback and make those sexy plays that everyone remembers.
And on the opposite right side of the ball, it's a pretty good matchup with TJ Watt going up against Lane Johnson. So that'll be a pretty good dogfight, I think.
Oh yeah, and I mean TJ Watt has really been everything the Steelers hoped he would be when they drafted him. I think early on, because people forget that was a great draft class because it was TJ Watt, then Juju, then James Conner, boom, 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 rounds 1, 2, 3. It's probably been one of the better drafts that they've had in recent years. And I think because Juju was so great early on that Watt kind of blended into the background. But I think now we're looking forward to who's going to be here for the long term. TJ Watt's in the front of the line, and I think there's a lot more question about Juju and James Conner. And obviously people love James Conner too because of his Pitt connections here. And he's a Western Pennsylvania guy, not exactly like Pittsburgh. He was up in Erie, but the Western Pennsylvania type of thing. So you can't say enough good things about TJ Watt. He's really established himself as a defensive player of the year candidate that gives pretty much every team they face fits.
In the old season, the Eagles went after a guy you're familiar with, Javon Hargrave. What could you tell us what you know about Javon Hargrave as far as playing for the Steelers the last couple of years?
Well, look, I think there are two things that made him attractive in free agency is that he really did take, he always progressed. And then, he really had his breakout year last year. And I think a key part of that is because Stephon Tuitt missed a lot of the season. So Hargrave really stepped into that role. And you never really felt like they lost anything up there, even though Stephon Tuitt is a Pro Bowl caliber player. He was one of those pieces that kind of made this defense work because they'd lost such a big piece and because he was able to be that next man up. So haven't really gotten to watch him a whole lot with the Eagles, but he's one of those players that, in the Steelers tradition, I mean, this doesn't always happen, but you like to see guys continually get just a bit better until they're, really solid player. Maybe they're not, the star of the defense, but they are solid enough to complement the guys you have around them. And I think he definitely fits into that mold.
Oh, I know Javon Hargrave's working his way back into the lineup. He was injured in training camp, missed the first 2 games. Yeah. And so I think he only played, against what was it? It was in San Francisco this past week. So yeah, I haven't gotten to see. I guess like you guys, I haven't gotten to see a whole lot of him, but right. But he's he's a solid piece. I don't think he's going to be a game changer on the for that defense, but he's going to help. He's going to help the other guys on that defense be able to make plays. And he'll make his fair share too. I thought it was a great acquisition, even though it was kind of like under the radar, helping out Jackson and Fletcher Cox up the middle as far as playing defensive tackle. So, right now, good. Yeah, he just kind of flew under the radar here just because of all those guys that the Steelers have on this defense. He was not that headliner, but he was in that solid second level that I think you need to have a good defense. He was not a weak point by any means. Right, because with Jim Schwartz's NASCAR package, rotating guys in, what he does with the Eagles, defense as far as, like I said, Malik Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Hargrave. Yeah, it should be. I'm interested to see how he works against those guys he was working against in practice for all those years. Right. A little familiarity. Absolutely.
In case you guys are joining us, just to get you guys all cut up real quick, we have Adam Bittner, before I say too fast, Adam Bittner from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette beat writer, of course, also an avid Steelers fan, also an alum from Penn State. And I have a clip here from Eric Ebron, and I want to get your thoughts after the clip. It's about a minute long, and I want to tell you at least what you see from Eric so far this season. So here comes the clip, and then I'll take your answer.
Coach Tomlin was specifically asked about you heading into that Houston Texans game, and he said, keep watching in terms of your involvement. I think we all know what happened during that game. Why did you have such a good game that day?
Most would say because my kids and my wife was up here, but for me, it was more of understanding Coach Tomlin's message, because the same message he gives to you guys is the same message he gives to us. He's very straightforward, very thorough, and he lacks no confidence in his coaching. And you love it, man. You adapt to it. You gravitate to that. So the same thing he told me. So I just wanted to step up to the challenge and let him know that I am the playmaker that I am, and continue to do that for this team. Because like I continue to say, all I care about is winning, man. I don't care nothing about the stats, but when my number is called, the only way for me to help, win these games that I would like to win is by contributing when it's my turn. So anytime it's my turn, I'm just looking to make the best of all my opportunities.
Right. So Eric Kurtz had a quick clip, and he's talking about the opportunity that he has been had, at least by the Steelers. What's your take on so far on Eric and the job he's been doing so far this season for the Steelers?
Look, I think the big question that a lot of Steelers fans have is can he be different than the Darius Green experiment was for them? He was one of the biggest free agent flops the Steelers have ever had. So there's a lot of eyes on Eric Ebron because he's a big free agent signing. And the question is he going to flop? I think, kind of getting back to what we were talking about before in terms of the Steelers' offensive identity. and how many weapons they, I hesitate to use the word weapons because that means that that they're good. And I don't necessarily know, what to expect from Chase Claypool or James Washington or Deontay Johnson. Not all three of them, to me, are pretty unproven guys. But at least in theory, there's a lot of options for Ben Roethlisberger. And Eric Ebron's one of them. Vance McDonald's one of them. And I think the important thing we've seen from him in the early going is that he's made the plays that they've asked him to make. There might be weeks where he doesn't get the ball at all. There might be times where they're targeting him 6-7 times, especially down in that red zone area. I think it really all kind of depends on how the game evolves. And to this point, he's made the plays that they've wanted him to make. And I think that's the thing to keep an eye on with him is basically what he's saying when his number's called. Is he executing? And he has to this point. And I think he has avoided that Ladarius Green reputation that people have so fresh in their mind.
Right.
My take, I think Eric Ebron was not a great pickup for the Steelers. The way they utilize the tight end, they always have. He had some pretty good years in Detroit. I think he had a couple injuries, but I think he's probably one of those tight ends that flies under the radar. He's not, he's not Zach Ertz. He's not Travis Kelce.
Right. He's not going to be kind of that bell cow, safety blanket type of a receiver. But I think, especially last year in Indy, he scored a ton of touchdowns. And I think that's part of why the Steelers were so attracted to him is that he can become, kind of a dynamic playmaker in that red zone. And I think that's the thing that they most, were interested in from him because they have the speed to kind of go up and down the field. Question is when there's nowhere else to go, who are the guys that you're going to look to? And I think that's really what they liked about him is that he can, he can go off for 2 or 3 touchdowns in a week if the game flow is correct. So, I think that's what they're looking for from him.
What is your take of Chase Claypool? I think he's going to be a stud. I mean, he had some great numbers at Notre Dame. I think he was, with the big receiver class coming out this year, I think he kind of flew under the radar. And at the combine, it looked like he, really did a great job there as well.
Yeah, I think he's, he's tall, he's fast. I think the hope is that he can kind of be what everyone kind of hoped Martavis Bryant could always be in Pittsburgh. And he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think that's the most important part is that obviously Bryant had a lot of problems here. It wasn't necessarily a performance problem. It was suspensions and off-field stuff that kind of derailed his career. And I think, the hope with Claypool is that, he can be that guy without the issues that came along with it. And that will, open up guys like Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster to operate underneath. There's been a lot of comparisons between especially Deontay Johnson and Antonio Brown in terms of their games. I don't think anyone's expecting Deontay Johnson to become Antonio Brown in terms of his production at the, on the top end of his career. But I think in terms of how you want the pieces to work in this offense, I think the goal is, to kind of have that deep burner in Claypool who can go up and get the ball and threaten defenses deep. And then, let those other 2 guys make the plays underneath a little bit more or, surprise teams and maybe send them long and kind of use Claypool as a decoy. I think that is the best version of the Steelers offense. Whether they get there or not, I think there's a lot to be proven, but I think there's a lot to like about him.
Well, Adam, listen, we don't want to take up too much more of your time here, but we do appreciate you coming on. Thank you for taking I'm pretty sure you're busy schedule away from, of course, getting your articles ready for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But Adam, thank you for coming on, and we'd love to have you back on again. And because the hockey season will start before we know it, just a quick layoff. And I'm quite sure there's a lot of things we could talk about. Sidney Crosby, who's not loved very much in Philly, by the way, but we love to have you back on. It's just not because it's a Pittsburgh thing, but we do appreciate the opportunity for you coming on with us. And hopefully we'll talk to you real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I got a big breeze here at the end, but thanks for having me on. It was great, and happy to talk Philly, Pittsburgh whenever we get the chance.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, guys.
Thank you too.
get the mic audio back up here. All right, so we had the, and I hopefully, Mike, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully everyone enjoyed the interview there by Adam Benner. He of course, he brushed up, and a lot of us, Mike and I, were talking about it off the mic here, but I can't believe that it's actually coming up on 10 years with Jerry Sandusky, and with the whole Joe Paul fallout, and obviously he ended up taking that to his grave, as you and I talked about it. We didn't get too much into it with Adam because of the experience that he had endured, but it's amazing. It's been almost 10 years now since that whole entire fallout up there at Penn State.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 10 years just flew by like a blink of an eye, but some pretty disturbing stuff. I'm sure, Adam being right in the thick of it, reporting for Penn State paper, just pretty traumatizing.
No, that it is. And it's a shame, obviously, because I think Joe Paul's legacy obviously got tarnished from that. And if he had something to do with it, and I'm not saying obviously with what was Jerry Sandusky accused of, but if he knew something, he should have said something early. And again, it's a whole different world. So, things now get reported a lot more faster than what it did beforehand. And again, when I made the comment as far as when it came to Alabama, it wasn't Alabama that dealt with a situation, something like that. My producers telling me it was up in Illinois where they had a almost similar situation to what happened down there at Penn State. But, well, Adam Benner, we thank him obviously for coming on. A really good guy, fun interview. For sure, it looks like the breeze was picking up at his house as we got towards the end of the interview. So it just happens. And thanks to everyone, by the way, that tuned in early. And we're sorry we try to work out all the audio qualities. It's just the way it works. So, as we get more shows in, the better the equipment will be and the better it'll be overall. So we do appreciate everyone for at least, tuning in. I see a couple of the kind of like laughing emojis, and things happen. It's just the way it is. So you can't get frustrated. It happens that way. But speaking of things that happened today with the Eagles, we're looking at the Eagles injury report. And up here, and I know, Mike, you got a couple updates here, but some significant ones here where we have Avonte Maddox still out with his ankle, Alshon Jeffrey, the illness in the foot that we talked about earlier. Fletcher Cox, I'm not too sure. I thought he was still in for the game, but up here it looks like they got him scratched for a personal reason. Have you heard anything different?
I believe that was from Friday. I have the update.
Okay.
List for today. Akeem Butler, running back Jason Huntley, Deshaun, Alshon Jeffrey, Avonte Maddox, Nate Sudfeld, Casey Toolhill. That's it. Also, breaking news on the NFL report. Also, the Patriots and Broncos game was canceled. I believe a player of the Denver Broncos tested positive. Patriots, Broncos will be played next week. Breaking news from Adam Show.
Well, I want to say it's kind of almost like not surprising, but it is. And you just mentioned something. Oh, the other thing that if people haven't followed over the weekend, apparently Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network was suspended, and kind of silly the way it ended up working, but I guess he shared an advertisement for Manscaped, and due to his not getting approved from the NFL has suspended him until October 22nd. So, Ian, hopefully you may not watch the show, but if you want to come on, by all means, come on. But sometimes it's the silliest things that can get you suspended. So it just, yeah.
Manscaped,
I don't know why, but it's the way it works. Because everything is oversensitive. Yeah, everything's oversensitive. So, but it is what it is. One thing I do like before I talk about the two small businesses that have joined us today. One thing is this one in particular with Doug. He's saying trust your plan because you put it there. And you know what? You got to trust it because obviously he put a plan together for last week and maybe some good second half adjustments, and they walked away with the win. So, trust as Joel Embiid says, trust the process. And speaking about Embiid as well, he did lose his companion, his dog. Apparently was trapped in an elevator door. So, thoughts and prayers go out to Joel Embiid. I know he was very close with his pet, and it's not good to lose a pet because losing a pet for some people is like losing a child. So, hopefully that he's feeling a little bit better today, but it's tough to lose an animal for sure. But two of the people I want to mention here were Mike Fuji is right now live at Maggie's at the waterfront. The Waterfront Cafe at 9242 North Delaware Avenue. And a quick mentions again with Maggie's, the one thing they're going to have on October 17th, in case anyone wants to go down there. We encourage everyone to go down. But Saturday, October 17th from 12 to 3, they're going to have Trunk or Treat at Maggie's. And if you need to reserve your spot, call 215-637-6716, 215-637-6715. It's $5 admission for all the kids participating without a dedicated car. And all proceeds are being donated, along with the one with the best decorated trunk is going to have a $200 cash prize. And also that week, we'll have the Shot of Southern, the country band at 7 o'clock on Thursday, October 22nd. So if you guys like country music, if you like just going out there and enjoying the bands, by all means, check them out. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a fun time. And the other small business that we want to mention here, if I can bring it up real quickly here, is the For the Bay Clothing Company, bringing the tea to Tampa Bay. They just recently started their company. They're only about 2 months into it. Good clothing attire. The husband and wife are originally from the Cleveland area, but they have their family established down here in Tampa Bay, and that's how they got their company started. So I'm pretty sure as the company grows, there'll be more selections from other cities and states as well. So thank you for the Bay Clothing Company to allow us to share your small business, because small business obviously what keeps things going. We do know we have the big conglomerates like Amazon, Walmart, and Target. We like to see this small business sustain this COVID period and are able to make it, and people still take the risk on creating a small business. So we do thank them also for allowing us to share reviews as well. The big one, of course, we're at 11:46 a.m. So the other second half is long bonus today was with Gobert, James Seltzer, and James and I, of course, we go back. Jimmy and I go back some years, and we had a lot of fun during the interview. We had a lot of fun even after the interview. So we want to bring that to you guys and girls. And again, we thank you for tuning in. We thank you for the 886 viewers that have seen the show since last week, episode 10. For the 196 people who had tuned in last week to the halftime show, there will be, of course, a halftime show today, and with hopefully a good outcome with the Eagles game. I think the Eagles will beat the Steelers. We'll get, of course, our thoughts and as far as the scores after the interview with Jimmy. But we want to show you the Jimmy interview because, again, it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. We know he's busy, obviously, with Go Birds. He's extremely busy. He also does articles for Pro Football Talk, I believe. He shares it with John Marks, and they also collaborate with also some baseball news as well. So Jimmy taking the time out to come with us, and without further ado, we're going to show the interview because it was a very enjoyable interview. So hopefully you guys will like it just as much as we did having the fun doing it for you guys.
Blast off.
Yeah. All right. So first, we're going to be talking about the Eagles here very shortly, but this week we have a very, very special guest that I'm honored to have. And we had a huge one not too long ago, but this one will be my own personal favorite is because it's my own brother, James Seltzer, of course, from Go Birds. He's on with ESP, Elliott Shore Parks, on Saturdays, 94 WIP. If you guys miss it, you're missing a lot. But if you do miss it, the good thing about this modern age is that you can go on Twitter at Go Birds, find their latest episode, and it's on Apple. I mean, every platform basically you can imagine. Apple's the biggest one, of course, I'm going to promote because a lot of people have Apple phones and that's fun. I know I'm an Android guy, but it is made for every platform. So if you guys end up missing it, you can go back and listen. Great shows all the time that the boys have, and it is phenomenal. The one thing, of course, coming off their Go Birds site, that's Jimmy and ESP, and of course, their famous logo with their Go Birds hat. And again, they're on 94 WIP. So if you missed the podcast, I'm telling you, you miss a lot. But one thing that I will say here, and I will bring it up on this screen, not only when you listen to the Go Birds, they also have a nice little jingle that goes along with it. And it goes a little something like this. So So without further ado, with that, we bring on the man, the myth, the legend himself, my brother, Jimmy Seltzer. Jimmy, how are you, man?
Angel, my brother Mike. Thanks for having me, fellas. That was my own intro song to come into. I feel special. Angel, it's a pleasure, man. I miss you, buddy. Angel was my first dude. Like, I love this guy. It's awesome to see you guys.
It's awesome to see you too. Believe me, it's for me. It's obviously it's a major honor, because the ties that we have going back from your former day. I actually have a picture here of where it all started.
Look at that.
Yeah. So on the boards, operating, I mean, just going nuts. And I can't, I can say this forever and a day that if you ever see the man in action, you will be surprised because he can do every multitasking task possible, even in his sleep. I'm pretty sure he can do it in his sleep, but it's to me, it's amazing. And obviously there's a couple of little pictures here I'm going to show you as well, kind of like a throwback. One thing that I said to Brandon when he was on earlier, of course, is the original BGN crew. The one picture here.
Look at that.
Yeah, wow. This one I cherish forever. And this was before, of course, the NFC Championship game. And listen, that night.
I get to go into the game. That must have been awesome. That was a great night.
It sure was. That was a lot of fun. Brian and we felt like rock stars. And the one thing I don't think I ever got to share with you. So Brian and I go up into the escalator, and as we're going up, they give us a towel for the NFC Championship game, and we have in our hand. So we get up to the very top of the escalator, of course, because it's the suites that we're in. So Brian and I we start grabbing our shirts. Yeah, VIP. VIP. So we had so much fun, and thanks to you guys. I mean, it was just it was like the icing on the cake for just being together for the years that we were in. It was just complete icing before I moved. The one thing that I will throw in there, as far as little history, do you remember this guy on your right?
Oh yeah, that was the Vikings fan that the people were barking at him, and did he end up getting into a fight? That guy, I think, right? Yeah, I remember that. Like it was happening behind us, and we're like, "Is there a fight going on over there?"
Yeah, because if you remember, so after he was done talking, because he was told by other fans, like the people that were standing around,
he was an a-hole. I remember that. He was being an a-hole. That's for sure.
How much did he have to drink?
Yeah, far too much. Far too much.
Well, the funny thing was, so that on the opposite side of where we were, where the show was going on, directly on the opposite side, it had to be at least, I would say easily, maybe 10,000 Minnesota fans. But the funny thing was that even that group on the far side, they were like, they were okay, they were humble, they were enjoying it. And across from where Jimmy and John were, I mean, just I would say less than maybe 50 yards away, there was maybe a group of 20 of them. And even those guys and girls had told him when he was coming up through the crowd that, hey, by the way, don't say anything silly, don't think anything stupid. So as he walked by, that's how he got Jimmy and John's attention.
Yeah.
So they set him down, and he started talking to him, and he kept talking trash to the point where they had to kick him off because he wouldn't stop. Well, he goes a little further up into the crowd, and let's just say he didn't see the game, but he did see a lot of cops on horses. I will tell you that much.
It didn't go well for him. It didn't go well for him. No.
So that was definitely a huge moment in Philly history. But that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
The best game at the Link. That's the all-time best game at the Link. The number one moment at the Link. The Patrick Robinson interception, like one of the all-time plays in Philadelphia sports history. Awesome, just awesome.
That was the turning point of that game, I thought.
Oh, no question, question.
That basically put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it was all. It will turn the tide. They walk down the field, that first touchdown, Case Keenum slinging it. They get the ball back, and you're starting to be like, what's going on? And then the Robinson pick, and then they just start pouring it on. And then the flea flicker to start the second half, and you're like, oh, man, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like, it's cooked. It's done. Let's go. And then it was basically just like a party the rest of the night.
It sure was. It was. I had so much fun. But lucky for us, where we were, because then Roger Goodell and Jaws comes up, popping up behind us, and I had the selfie for that one.
Nice.
But of course, Jaws was getting all the cheers, and Roger Goodell was, greeted the way he should have been greeted. So, it was so much fun. I can go on and on with that game, but man, it was so much fun. So again, thank you guys, because obviously, the surprise you guys gave me, man, it threw me completely back.
Well, we love you, Angel. I mean, I think Angel literally listened to the very first thing I ever did. Angel was like coming to our events when there was literally no one there. It would be like an empty bar and Angel hanging out with his brothers. It was really cool that we were able to get to a point where we could do something like that for you. You know what I mean? Like that meant as much to us as it did to you.
I believe it's much appreciated. That and the other thing that I do remember very well is when you guys were, of course, during the draft, when it came to Philly, and when I walked up to the table and you guys were saying, "Hey, say hi to everybody," and I'm trying to find this small little camera, the webcam that you have to have put in the post. So I'm waving around everywhere else, like, yeah, no, over there. So even that was fun. It's a lot of good memories. A lot of good memories.
Many, man. So many.
Where were you guys then? Like off the side of the art museum that day?
Yeah, so we were like that area, the Eakins Oval there, where they had the main setup. We were right in there, like right kind of towards the oval was kind of split almost. We were kind of like halfway up the oval, like kind of on a row where there was a bunch of media along the side there. It was pretty cool. Like we were also next to it was, I think we were, because WIP was the only media that was allowed in the oval. Like everyone else, there was like a media section like behind the stage or whatever, but we were the only ones that were like in that area. So it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done for sure.
Yeah, I do.
And they killed it. I mean, like Philly, like that was the like a perfect draft. I mean, not the players we took, it turned out, but the actual draft itself, it was just executed flawlessly. It was beautiful.
It was amazing.
It really was.
I was actually down there for all 3 days.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the idea that the Lombardi Trophy started the year at the draft in Philly and ended the year at the parade in Philly, I think there's a lot of nice, synchronicity, so to speak, with that.
Big time.
Yeah.
That was. And if you remember correctly, do you remember how many viewers you had that night when you guys ended the show?
I have no idea, but I'm amazed that you do.
Yeah, so the show ends, Mike, and we're sitting around because people are getting ready to pack up stuff, and we're like figuring out what to do next. So John looks at Jimmy and tells Jimmy, "We had 1 million views. We had 1 million views."
Wow.
Like, everybody was blown away. So we immediately went to South Philly and celebrated a little bit afterwards, right down on Passyunk Avenue. So that was, I'm telling you, the memories and just the nostalgic moments it's a beautiful thing. But
That's amazing.
The other thing that I did tell Brandon, and I will tell you as long as I can try and keep it together, but of course, that when I went through my relationship back home and it wasn't the best. And of course I'm working the 80, 90 hours a week.
Literally. We owe it 90-hour weeks on the regular.
Yeah, it was a lot, but the one thing, many a times, because, we did go back and forth and of course you were my big support channel. The one thing that I think I never mentioned this to you only because I kept it quiet, and Brandon and I talked about it a little bit, but so the night of, was it a Christmas game? I want to say. So when things were at the worst they could possibly be, it was one of those moments that, and thankfully because I had you guys, I went to the link, and when I went to the link, I'm looking at Citizens Bank Park, and I just made a quick little goofy video. I think we're playing. I want to see either the Raiders or someone else the following week, but so I went down, and that night, and just to let people know that obviously suicide is real. I thought about, because things had gotten so low in my life, that was going to be it. That was going to be the moment. And knowing you and knowing John and knowing Brandon, the big thing was that was a motivational key. And as I told Mike the story and Brandon the story, so just remembering and talking to God at the moment and telling him, there's got to be a reason why I'm here. There's reason why all this stuff is happening. And when I mean that was my darkest day, when I was ready to go, I said to God, and the lights were off at the link. If I remember correctly, the lights were off. And I said to God, I said, if there's a point in time ever that I can think about me not ending my life, there's got to be a sign. And no kidding. And it's the only time, Jimmy, I wish I had my camera going, because as soon as I ended with sign, the lights at the link came right on.
Get out of here.
Came right on.
Oh, man.
Yeah, came right on. And I wanted to text you that night to let you know, but there was so much going on because I know you guys were so busy. I'm like, you know what? I'll save it for some other time. But listen, again, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, man. I love you, brother.
just the years and all the anguish and everything else I went through. So now, thankfully, I'm in a much better place. I got much better producer, because my one and only producer that's off camera here a little bit, because she means the world to me. So yeah, big turnaround. Yeah, trying to hold together here for a second.
Well, I'm happy it went the way it did, man. We love you, and I love you, and I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy that things are better, because things can always get better. It's never as dark as it seems in the moment.
That's true. No, it's very true. Believe me, I love you to death, and you know that, because it obviously this is just a bigger part of history for me tonight, being able to even interview you. So that's huge for me. But
it's my honor. I'm just excited to hang out. It's the honor's all mine.
Yeah, but I love you to death. You know that, because we I think almost on a daily basis we kind of go back and forth. So I believe I miss it. But the one thing, we did talk about this before you came on, and the last time, of course, that we were together. I guess because the Eagles game was the last one. But if you remember this one,
yeah, buddy, the talent show.
Yeah,
look at that.
Where was that at?
It was at Underground Arts in Philly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I've never seen a man, even though it's mini hoops, I've never seen a man beat other people with dress shoes, slacks, and a shirt.
He was crushing it.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He is amazing at Papa Shot. It's unbelievable how good he is at it. It's freaky. It's weird.
He was taking on the challengers, but nobody else stepped up.
Crushes people. People. Yeah.
He is a funny guy, but there was
he is.
This week, of course, to kind of flip over into a little bit of the Philly mode here. So earlier this week, and we'll talk Phillies and Sixers here real quick, but earlier this week, of course, John Middleton came on, and John Middleton had his little video of what he thought was going to be the reason why he is selling JT Realmuto. Oh, well, if they open up the stadiums, if they let the fans back in, then we'll talk. So ironically, I think it was Monday, if I remember correctly, the governor comes on along with the mayor of Philadelphia, and they say, yeah, we'll let about 7,500 people back at the venue. So you made the statement on Friday, I believe. They released it on Sunday. Monday, things turn around. It is now Wednesday. So why aren't we hearing any more about JT?
Well, we're not going to hear anything. He's going to go to free agency after the World Series. That's just what it is. And he said that. Middleton said that he's going to reach free agency. And look, I'm not very optimistic he's going to come back at this point. Middleton's giving all kinds of ridiculous answers and asinine things about like you just talked about that we don't know how many people are going to be in the stands, so we can't sign JT. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's an absurd thing to say. And I like, this guy's worth $3.4 billion. It's like, are you serious?
Right.
It's just
exactly.
The whole Zoom call, the whole press conference thing he did was a disaster. I don't think he had a single good answer. He seems overmatched. He seems like he had, honestly, as an owner of a baseball team, has zero clue what he's doing. That's what it feels like to me. It is a massive concern. The idea that Klentak stepped down, which is just, how stupid does everyone think? He clearly was forced out of the job, and he's just keeping him around because he owes him money. And then the fact that he can get rid of Andy McPhail, he keeps Andy McPhail in the role, which is like, what are we even doing here? What's the point here? So I have very little faith in his ability as an owner of a baseball team, and it's incredibly concerning. You hope that he hires a smart person to be the GM, someone who can maybe kind of take the reins and run with it, but it's all top down. Everything's from the top down, and this guy being the owner is incredibly nerve-wracking as a Phillies fan.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, especially because he's talked like, he fronts like he's something that he's not. The whole, I'm going to bring the trophy back or die trying. I'm going to, stupid money, like all these things he says that, he, first of all, he contradicts himself a lot. He talks about, not wanting to be involved in all kinds of baseball operations, like a reliever, a $2 million reliever. I'm not getting involved in that. But the big things, the big contracts, the big players, I've got to be involved in that. And then he's blaming the front office for not re-signing JT. You're the guy who has to re-sign JT. You're the dude, all that. So yeah, I'm hopeful he hires a good GM, but I don't have a lot of faith in the guy.
I I think one guy I would love to see them go after, even though he has 1 year left on his contract.
Theo.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, I think Theo will be, if they're going to do Theo, and I wouldn't put it past him to use like Ned Rice as an interim GM for a year and make a run at Theo. And I love Theo. I mean, I think what Theo's accomplished is probably the most impressive accomplishment any executive in sports history has had.
Big time.
And the two longest losing streaks in sports. It's like the two most losingest franchises, waiting for the World Series finally gets them both over the hump. But, Theo's last few years with Chicago have been great. I think he could be invigorated by a new spot. I would certainly be open to the idea of Theo coming here, but I also don't love the idea of just waiting around for a year and kind of just, kind of throwing the year away without the guarantee that Theo would come here. If you know for a fact that once Theo's out of his contract in Chicago, he will come here, cool, that's fine. But it seems like a bit of a gamble to take too if you're not going to, definitely get Theo here. But I would be fine with Theo. I just think you're going to have to wait a year.
I mean, is it possible they could throw some compensation the Cubs' way to get him out of that contract?
I mean, theoretically, but John Middleton doesn't seem like someone who's going to be throwing compensation around in any way, shape, or form. I mean, first of all, I don't see him thinking outside the box like that enough to do something like that. And then second of all, he just seems like, I'm not even sure he would pay Theo what he wants. Like he's talking about all these dollars and cents and whining about, free agents and spending money and won't go over the luxury tax and all that. Like, I don't know. He's keeping Klemtak around just because he gave him a contract extension. Like, fire the guy. Just move on. Like, be done with this. Why is he sitting around in meetings and stuff? It's crazy. If it were me, I would just say bye, and I would give the Eric Neander, the guy who runs the Rays, or someone like that, I'd say, here's $50 million. Boom. Come run my team. You'll have 4 times the payroll you work with. Come dominate here. Think about what we could do with all these resources. But I just don't trust Middleton to do that. He has to prove it to me.
Right, that's true. Because if you look at that, the Rays now, of course, they're the ALDS and they're playing. Of course, they're trying to go up on the series 2-1 tonight. But you look at what the Rays, their GM, what he does with basically $100 budget is what he's got to work with down here. The Rays are still trying to figure out if they're going to stay in St. Pete. Obviously, the owner wants to do this split 50-50 with Canada, which I think is just ridiculous. There'll be the ex-Rays, and then down here, you might call them the Sunshine Rays for the most part. You're going to change the name. But it's amazing to me that with the low budget that he has here, could we use someone like that in Philadelphia? Surely, because he's got plenty of talent down here. Their farm system down here is ridiculously loaded. And he's doing it with, just minimal stuff. And even with, during the regular season, if there's, no offense to Rays fans, if there's 100 fans in the stands, it's an amazing number. The only time they ever pack the house is when the Yankees come into town because of all the New Yorkers they have here. And the same way when Boston comes to town. And the Phillies obviously had, they moved as well, but they packed the house too. But you need someone like that, someone that can bring this organization to where John Middleton says that he wants winners. Well, it's not proving it because you're not doing anything in the process.
Yep. No, I'm with you. That's what I would do. I would go find someone smart who's run a team like the Rays. I think that's a top choice. But if not, churn off the guy with the Indians. Like all these teams like the Rays, the Indians, the A's, like these teams that work at a fraction of the cost of the Phillies or the Yankees or these other teams, and yet are just as competitive, winning, the Rays won 40 games this year, 40-20 or whatever. Like, come on, the Indians won 35 games. Like all these teams that do it on a shoestring budget or comparatively a shoestring budget, like go find these guys and give them a bigger budget and let them run your team. Like get smart people to run your team. And that's something that they've failed to do.
Well, even the Marlins. That's a hell, got to help.
Yeah, sure. Michael Hill, the number 2 guy down there. I think he's a fascinating, name to look for. Yeah, absolutely. And Marlins, I feel a little fluky this year, but they've got a good farm system. They've got talent down there, certainly more than the Phillies do.
Big time.
That's true. And then you have Reese Hoskins had the UCL. Was it UCL?
Tommy John surgery. Yeah, Tommy John surgery. Yep. So he's out 4 to 6 months. So that's, they're just a flawed team. Their major league roster is flawed. They have nothing in the minor leagues. Once Bowman Howard came up, and like Bowman, that's like the one bright shining light from this season that I think you latch on and be like, that dude's gonna hit 300 every year. Like he's an awesome hitter. But they got nothing left. They got nothing in the minors. They got nothing coming up. It's they're in a bad spot. Like, they really are. And the only way that they can win right now is by spending a bunch of money. And it doesn't seem like, according to him in his press conference, Middleton believes that's a way to win. So, like, you could be looking at a team that's, pseudo rebuilding again. And they just gave Bryce Harper this contract. Like, you think Bryce Harper, who's spent the entire year saying, sign JT, sign this guy, is going to be psyched when they let him walk. And they're like, oh yeah, Bryce, we're not going to be that good for a few years. Like, no, it's going to suck. He's going to be pissed. It's going to be a whole thing. It's not ideal.
My thing is, I mean, if Bryce wants him that bad, give up some of that.
No, stop. John Middleton's worth $3.4 billion. Are you kidding me? Pay him like $3.4 billion. Bryce Harper's got a $330 million contract. That's nothing compared to $3.4 billion. Like, no way.
Oh, exactly.
That's silly. That's crazy town. Like, just pay him. Stop being cheap. Pay him. Like, that's it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's true. I have to agree, because it's. I think the fans obviously, and I love, that was the one thing as well that I remember now, that John Middleton, according to him, he said he wasn't listening to the fans on making a decision with Matt Glentak. Okay, you're not listening, but it's kind of ironic that we were calling for him, and all of a sudden Matt Glentak has stepped down. But again, if you are listening, why aren't you doing something about it? Winter meetings are coming up, obviously, right after the World Series here. So what are you going to do then? How much progress can we possibly see? Because, the farm system down here in Clearwater is pretty much depleted. I was hoping to see a lot more games this year. Unfortunately, I didn't, thanks to the pandemic. But, it's going to be interesting to see who they have come next year, because even half the guys who are on the squad from last year, I don't even think they made it back this year. So we didn't get a chance to see anything whatsoever from the minor league.
Well, there was no minor league baseball this year. They didn't have minor league baseball, which is a shame, which is a tragedy. But, yeah. Yeah, look, it's not great. They don't have a lot of guys. It's definitely barren. They're one of the 5 to 7 worst farm systems in baseball. So it's not great. It's not good. Yeah,
no, it's true. But switching gears here, of course, we had the Sixers who, poor Brett, he did what he possibly could do to establish, this team, and we went through the process and everything else. And he tried this year. Of course, it was just this whole bubble thing and everything else. I'm not using the excuse as a bubble for him, but Brett needed to do better, and he didn't. And so the Sixers, rightfully so, they let him go again. The other thing the Sixers fans had talked about, and everybody in Philly radio as well, because he just wasn't getting the job done. He couldn't get the Sixers over the hump. So Doc Rivers gets let go by the Clippers, and all of a sudden he becomes the top guy, the top name in Philly. And thankfully the Sixers end up, getting him, which is a great thing for Philly. I think he's the guy who can finally put this team together and get him over. Stop with the Ben Simmons and everyone's bickering back and forth. Like, it's time for someone, as making a Joe reference here, bringing the hammer down, because it's needed. This, the Sixers, they do have, for the most part, not a bad organization altogether, but also for the talented players. But you also let, I know Jimmy wanted to leave. They couldn't sign him, whatever the case may be. Now he's about to lose here against the Lakers in Game 5. But Jimmy's gone. There's still turmoil with this team. So you need a head coach like Doc Rivers to straighten all this out.
Yeah, look, I don't know if Doc, if any coach can fix the problems. I think, going back to our last conversation, I think Josh Harris is a horrible owner and has done a real bad job mismanaging this team, ever since removing Sam Hinkie. And then, the front office is a mess, and it's still got a bunch of Colangelo guys in it, and they've made no changes. So I don't have a lot of hope long-term for the Sixers, but I don't think they could have hired anyone better than Doc Rivers. I think that if there's anyone who can come in and make a difference, I think Doc's the type of guy who can. I think he's going to command respect in that locker room, played like 15 years in the league or whatever, has been a coach for well over a decade, 15 years a coach. Like, he is an all-time basketball guy, and he's won a championship as a coach. And he's, I think they'll respect him. I think the young guys, Embiid, Simmons, I think he can, kind of command a respect that Brett Brown didn't. And I think he's a better coach than Brett Brown and a better tactician and all that type of stuff. But I just think that they're flawed from a roster perspective. The Al Horford contract is a disaster. The Tobias Harris contract is a disaster. They have no guys who fit otherwise. It's Like, there's no shooters. I just think they're a poorly constructed team. I think Embiid and Simmons, just those two guys alone mean they're a top 4, top 5 type seed in the East every year and stuff. But I don't see him being a title contender, really a perennial title contender for sure. So I love the Doc Rivers hire. I hope he can get the most out of them. Maybe he can get Ben Simmons to shoot, but I'm not like super bullish on their long-term prospects, so to speak.
Right. Do you think it's possible they could maybe unload a Tobias Harris, or that contract is probably so steep?
It's so prohibitive. I mean,
nobody will want it.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, if they had a super creative GM, maybe, but they don't. Like, I don't trust Elton Brand or this front office to be able to make a move like that would be beneficial to the team. But ultimately, I think those contracts, both Horford and Harris, they're too much of albatrosses. I mean, they're just around. I mean, he's gonna make $40 million next year or whatever. I mean, it's crazy. It's insanity. Like, I don't know. Like, the only way you do that is if you add on draft picks and try and really kind of mortgage your future in order to move on from that contract, and that's a tough proposition too. So I don't know. Maybe weirder things have happened, but I wouldn't count on it.
Is it true that Joel Embiid can opt out after next season? Or was that a rumor?
I would have to check out the contract. I think it's either after next year or the year after, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he wants to move on. They haven't treated him great. They've, kind of built the team around him that doesn't fit him. He's made it very clear. He wanted to play with Jimmy Butler. He wanted to play with JJ Redick. Right. They got rid of both those guys, whether by choice or not. I don't think Embiid is super happy here. So, I wouldn't be shocked if he wanted to leave, but I think it's 2 years. But he could try and force a trade. That's possible too.
Exactly.
I got 3 quick clips here that I'm going to show kind of, back to back. And it's a quick introduction. Doc Rivers as the new head coach for the Sixers. What Doc knows what's expected here in Philly. And then even Dougie gave him a little welcome to Philly.
Good morning. Great. Media will be up there.
This is important and special day for the Philadelphia 76ers. We're excited to introduce our new head coach, Doc Rivers.
It's organization, town. I love what we have to work with Elton. I am looking forward to this into a championship. I really just can't wait to get to work. And I won a title, right? I won a title. Once you win one, you need another. That for legacy. I care less about that. Because you need another. You just want another. That's my drive. That's what drives me. That's what gets me up in the morning.
I have not had a chance to meet him. I'd love to have the chance to introduce myself and welcome him to Philadelphia. And obviously, I'm sure he understands the passionate fans and the media and the base here in the great city of Philadelphia, the surrounding area. And he's a veteran coach. He understands. And we're excited to have him and be a part of our community here in Philadelphia. Can't wait to finally meet him.
So some interesting quick clips there, and Doc, of course, does he have something left in him as far as on his shoulder because the Clippers organization just pretty much cutting ties with him, and whatever it happens to head coaches all the time. I'm just hoping that he is the guy to get the Sixers righted the way they're supposed to be because it's been a while and we need to change here in Philly. Of course, the always great topic to talk to you about is the Eagles. And we saw that the Eagles finally pulled off a win this past Sunday. Much needed win. And if I do remember correctly, I believe ESP said on the podcast after the show when you guys were on that his words were what you saw, something like it was a win. I know it was something of those words he referred to. Yeah, what you saw was a win, and basically saying that it's what was needed. to see, Carson Wentz to step up. The first half of the game when we were on doing our pregame, we talked about the miscommunication, the things that weren't going right. At halftime, we still talked about Carson Wentz not getting the job done. And then the second half, it became the tale of two tales. So listening to the podcast afterwards with you guys have pretty much had nailed everything as far as what went on with the game. Even prior to the game, of course, with the show before the game was on Saturday. But just between the colors, the comments made about Carson, Doug Peterson himself saying that he wanted to make a fast tempo, and I cracked a couple of jokes last week when it came to that, and it wasn't a fast tempo, but it was a tempo, and the tempo was that he got the win, and I think that was the most important thing. And who knew that you could be 1-2-1 in first place in the NFC East? That's how bad the East is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's the division is a complete total disaster. One of the worst divisions I've ever seen in my life. Worse than last year, which is hard to believe. Look, I was excited that they won. It was nice to see them win. I thought it was a gutty type of performance. It was great to see Carson look more like Carson. He was certainly gutsy out there. Took a lot of hits, the running, the first down to his legs, the touchdown. That is all really important stuff. I still don't know what to make of the team. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're still very flawed. I think the roster is really lacking, certainly in some key spots, certainly with all the injuries. I mean, wide receiver is a wasteland right now. They've got all kinds of injuries, the offensive line. Obviously, some of those guys have stepped up. I thought Mailata played really well. I'd rather watch him than Peters at this point. But I think the biggest thing going is the thing you mentioned. The NFC sucks. So as bad as I think Eagles are and as tough as their schedule is, I think they'll probably be in it, so to speak, because I think Dallas sleeps too, and the Giants and Washington are bad. So I was encouraged to see them win, and it made me hopeful that they can kind of at least keep us interested all season.
Oh, absolutely. The NFC least, I remember it was like this a couple years back. And, like you said, Jordan Mailata stepped up and, Nate Herbig and Jack Driscoll played good, filling in for Lane Johnson. I mean, the defense, I believe, was like, especially forget how many sacks they had, but
they lead the NFL, I believe, in sacks. Which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Seems like they're gelling finally, and Darius Slay's, the player that they expected him to be.
He's been great. Yeah, he couldn't ask for more. He's been a shutdown corner. It's exciting. We haven't had a guy like that in a while here. I think defense is good, and the D-line is legit. If guys stay healthy, I think they'll be all right. I think the offense is going to be the question. And I was impressed with the young linemen. Like you mentioned, Herbig looks like a good player. Driscoll looked solid. Mailata played well. So, if nothing else, it would be nice to see some young guys take a step forward and make you feel like they're actual younger players on this roster you feel like could be a piece for you in the future, because I think that's been the biggest worry coming into the year and really this offseason and all that is just how, really you can't think of many 25 and under impact guys that they have on this team. It's like Goddard and Sanders and, that might be it, prior to the season coming in. So I think it's really important that those type of guys step forward. And whether Mailata or Herbig, one of those guys can be like potential, 5-10 year players for you on your line. That's massive. That's huge. So, I'm looking for that type of stuff this year.
Can you see any of the linebackers, the rookies cracking the
look, maybe because the starters are so horrendous that at a certain point they just say, all right, why not? It is a horrible group of linebackers. I think TJ Edwards has probably been the best one, but he's hurt now. I don't like any of those guys. I don't like Nate Gary. I don't like Duke Riley. I just think they're all bad. Davion Taylor, the guy they took in the third round, is like a developmental guy. He's not ready, but he's a 6th round pick, but I really like Sean Bradley. I like the Temple kid. I liked him.
Local kid.
Yeah, I loved him when he played at Temple. I thought he was good there. He's tough. He's a football player. So I think if he got some opportunities, maybe he could take advantage of them. But I don't think there's a lot of hope at that position right now at the moment.
In case, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, God.
So just a quick recap here. In case you guys are just joining us, we have James Seltzer, my brother from 94 WIP, of course, the sports radio, the Eagles podcast. Of course, all Eagles games are heard on 94 WIP. So if you need to tune in to it, also radio.com app, the radio.com, you can also listen to the Go Birds podcast. And not only that, but you can catch every show from 94 WIP. So if you live out of town, go to radio.com app and you can hear everything Eagles, from Go Birds to the midday show to John and Reese. I mean, you name it, you can find it on there. But and if you guys want to follow, of course, my brother, he's on Twitter, go on Go Birds, and you can catch every podcast that you miss. And they're always encouraging, no matter what, and they tell the way it is. Also, if I do remember correctly, Saturdays from 1 to 3, my brother's on 94 WIP with the Go Birds radio show.
Boom. Nailed it. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Go Birds.
So now, speaking about Jordan Mailata, and I have another clip here from the way the guys have thought about Jordan himself. I've got to put it up here on cue. I thought the game that he had, and he seemed to get a lot of the media talk this week, which was really, really interesting. I know Richie on your show, on the midday show, I mean, he sung praises about Jordan Mailata, and rightfully so, because I guess he's going to be looking at, and what Richie had said was that would he be the one going forward, taking Jason Peters' spot? And to me, I think, and I could be wrong, but if he's doing well, why not keep him in that position? Because Jason Peters, and you even talked about it with ESPN on Go Birds, that we were lucky if we were going to see him even play the entire season. So, do you believe, before I play the clip, that Jordan will stay at the position?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. The Eagles have treated Jason Peters differently than they treat other guys. They gave him more money to move back to tackle. It always seems like Jason Peters makes the rules down there. So I don't know, but if it were my decision, absolutely it would be Mailata. Like, if he can look, that was one game. I need to see him do it again. Pittsburgh might have the best defensive front in football. Baltimore's awesome defensively. So, like, he's got some tough matchups coming up, but if he holds his own in them, I would absolutely not give the job back to Peters. Sit on the bench, play guard. I don't care. I would not give him the job back.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm going to show Mike, hold on to your questions. I know you had one before I had talked about it earlier, but I'm going to show the quick clip here, and then if you can remember your question, ask away after the clip.
And like I said, he's come a long way. A long way. His development, his growth. I thought there were some really good things yesterday by him. He's a big man, obviously. He's strong. And when he is 100% accurate on what he's doing on that, it's hard for defenders to get around him, pass block or run block. He's right. So he's so he's still a work in progress. He's still like a ball of clay that we're shaping and molding and making into a left tackle.
So, interesting what he had to say there, Doug, and obviously he's high praises for Jordan, and rightfully so, because the game that he had played. Mike, the question you had?
It's going in the next season. I mean, you know how much the Eagles technically will be over the salary cap next year? I hear 50 million. I hear 80 million.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers. I've heard 50 most often. 62 is a number I've heard, but it's all fake money. Like, it's all, who knows? Like, they're going to cut guys, they're going to move around and stuff. But I think the main takeaway from it, they are way further over the cap than any other team in the league next year, like definitively the worst. They're in really bad shape for next season. I think whatever the actual number is, I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that they're in really bad shape for next season from a salary cap perspective.
As far as the tight end position, you think Dallas Goedert would take like a cheaper contract to stay in Philly? And they could.
I mean, I don't know. Why would he? I wouldn't. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I also don't think that Dallas Goedert, and first of all, he's not due for a contract till after next season. So, yeah, so you can keep him for one more year at that price, which I think they would, because he's still on his, rookie contract. So I think that won't be an issue until the year after. And look, I don't think he's going to get paid top 5 tight end money or anything unless he has a dominant year next year. So that's still to be written, still to be decided. I would be surprised if they signed Zach Ertz to an extension at this point. It just, doesn't feel like that's a priority for them. And I get it. I mean, I love Zach Ertz. I think he's an all-time Eagle. But, I mean, look, you saw it on Sunday night. I mean, you look at George Kittle and you look at Zach Ertz, and you're like, oh wow, like that guy shouldn't get the same money that guy should. I mean, like, let's be real, So it's probably what's going to end up happening.
Exactly.
I agree.
Another question for you here, because I do remember it might have been 2 days ago, if I remember correctly. So Richie asked a question to Mike Quick, which I thought was a real interesting answer, what Mike Quick had to say. Richie said, well, what do you think the wins, how many wins would it take for someone to win a division this year? Mike Quick answered with 9.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's that many. No, I'm with you. I think it's 8, 7, somewhere in there. I think this division is horrible. Just awful. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
I was going to say, with all that talent Dallas has, it's like.
They're an underperforming team. They really are. It's surprising. But hey, I'll take it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I did say, which I can't believe that we lost to that Washington football team, which I've now nicknamed them DCU for District of Columbia University, because that's exactly what they are, is a college football team. But I'm hoping that the second time we play them, obviously, is a lot better than the first. So there's a couple of things I wanted to get to you, but I know your time is limited, so I will end it here. Hopefully, when you get some more time, you can come back with us, because I know you have things to prep.
I will definitely be back. Give me a couple weeks. I'll be back. I just gotta, the further we get away from baseball season, the more time I'll have. I'll be in good shape.
Sure, no problem. Speaking of baseball, your prediction: who wins the World Series?
So I said before the season, Dodgers over the Yankees in the World Series. So I'll stick to it just because I picked it. But I could absolutely see the Rays beating the Yankees and going to the World Series. Ultimately, I think the Dodgers are the best team. They've been the best team all year long. They're the most talented. They're the deepest. They're awesome. I mean, the Dodgers are awesome. So I would bet on the Dodgers if it were me. But I think the Yankees could win it. I think the Rays could win it. Even the Astros, they've been there. They've got guys who have hit in big spots before. Granted, sometimes with help or whatever. But it wouldn't be the most shocking thing ever. But if I'm putting my money down, I'm putting it on the Dodgers.
All right, Mike, you had a question you said from a friend of your coworker.
Yes, he wants to know as far as Joe DeCamera.
Oh, my favorite.
As far as like the whole bath theme is true.
Oh, it's all true. So everything. Everything he says on that show is true. Like the whole thing. It is not a shtick. It is not exaggerated. That is Joe DeCamera. The bass, the weirdness, the ridiculous theories. It's all that dude. Like he is as authentic as it gets. It's all true. It's hilarious. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
I think the thing that makes me laugh though, Jimmy, is that at the movies. I love when you guys go with the movie themes and. Joe, how about this movie? And he's like clueless. Like, what?
That's unbelievable.
I've never seen that. And then he'll pull something out of nowhere. Like, oh, you guys haven't seen that one? It's just something that like a roll Rolodex later on. Like, no, I know they haven't seen this movie. Let me pull this one out. But Joe's amazing. Listen, the midday show, and I've told you this many times before. And again, thank you so much for coming on tonight. But the one thing I will say, the midday show absolutely rocks. It's so much fun to listen to.
Big time.
And come Monday, of course, getting a recap, whether it's a win or loss, you get just the way it is, the same way it does with your show on Go Birds. So we appreciate it, at least the fans and all of us. We love the show. I know I can't, I can sing accolades for days for it, but I think with what you do, again, being the man who you are, the executive producer of the year, I'm going to make up a trophy. I'm going to make it up more just for you, because I'm telling you. The hardest working man in radio today, right there on the other side of the screen. So, as we do appreciate, I love you too. I believe more than tons, because it's just been, to me, it's a nostalgic moment. So, if I'm lost for words right now, it's because I'm beyond happy. And again, I think my producer over here, she's probably known it more than anybody else, because it's been waiting, anticipating. So, I thank you for taking the busy time out of your schedule. We appreciate it. And I'm glad that Mike got the pleasure of meeting you. And listen, for everyone that's listening, again, go Birds. Listen to their podcast, replay. If you guys missed, you can catch a replay on it. Listen to the midday show, from 1 to 3 on Saturday. One midday show from 10 to 1.
10 to 2.
10 to 2. Sorry, 10 to 2, Monday through Friday. Go Birds, 1 to 3, and the podcast. So hopefully I got everything all squared up. But Jimmy, thank you so much. I appreciate you in more ways than one coming on tonight. I really do.
Thanks for having me, guys. I will definitely be back soon. It has been my pleasure. Mike, a pleasure to meet you.
Angel, same here. Thank you for coming on.
My brother, I miss you. I love you. Thank you for having me, guys. It was a blast.
I miss you. I love you too, Jimmy. I'm coming up to Philly soon, so we'll
I can't wait.
Very shortly.
Can't wait.
Everybody else, hang on. We'll talk more Eagles talk right after this. All right, back live here, and that was, of course, my brother that I absolutely love to death. I wouldn't say it in enough times, and it's Jimmy Seltzer. And again, we've been together for years, and as he said, when no one believed, I guess I was the first guy there, and it's amazing to build a relationship with Jimmy, with Brandon, John Barchard, with John Marks. I mean, all those guys. Live in the studio, I got the opportunity. Matt Lombardo, of course, at one time I was with Jimmy inside the producer station. So it means a lot when you connect with someone and you have that fun relationship with that person. It means a whole lot. So Jimmy, if you're having me catching the live show, thank you again for coming on. We really do appreciate it. It absolutely made my weekend, of course, and we did it earlier during the week, but so much fun. It was just really, really so much fun. I got a comment coming up here. And Tom, great interview. Thank you, Tom. It was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. I will say, and I'm glad Mike and everyone else got to see what I've been able to see for years and work with and just had so much fun. I miss being up there. I miss going up as far as the studio, and it'll happen hopefully one of these days once I get back home and be able to go up to the studio, of course, do a live show with my partner here, and it'll just be one big. Hopefully, matter of fact, we can get just one big round table with everybody and just go at it, and that would be a lot of fun.
That would be phenomenal.
We'll see.
It was a great interview.
Yeah, things do happen. How is the crowd over there at Nanny's? What's it looking like?
Piling in here. Got a pretty good crowd. Pretty much every table is almost filled on this side. Plus, they got tables outside if anybody like to come up. Pretty another 34 minutes. I'll be here till after the game. So stop by, get some beers, come on up, enjoy the game. Birds are going to win, but not by much.
Yeah, hopefully, and Maddie's, of course, they were once again promoting small businesses, and because the small business matters, folks. No matter which way you look at it. Again, we can shop anywhere, but the small business does matter, especially coming up this year. I think more than any other time after Thanksgiving. And of course, we all do Black Friday, and everybody goes out there and shops for the best deals. But don't forget about Small Business Saturday coming up in November. I mean, it's only a month away. I know I can speak for the folks down here in the Tampa St. Pete area. St. Pete last year must have had at least about 300 tents. Small tents for small business. And I will say, for the people that turned out to buy for local businesses, it was phenomenal. And they did a 3-day event. It was actually, they started on Saturday, went into Sunday, and then they decided to add another day into Monday. So hopefully they'll do that again. But that, and of course, for the Bay Clothing Company, as they too are a small business, just getting started, about 2 months into the business, and we wish them nothing but success. They're originally from the Cleveland area, but now have family ties down here in Tampa, and they decided to start a company up. And so we wish them well, because it's hard during the pandemic to be able to take that leap into the future with the unknown. But if we've talked about the notable inactives, and Mike, I think you actually got some other breaking news as well from the NFL.
I mentioned earlier, Patriots-Broncos game's moving next week. One of the Broncos players tested positive this morning. So another week of juggling games for the NFL for next week. This week, Bills playing Tuesday and Thursday night. I don't know how that's happening. Surprised the NFL Players Association hasn't stepped in with that. The COVID plus, these guys are playing 2 games in 3 nights. That's a lot. And now if it was the Eagles, I don't think we'd be liking that too much, especially the risk of injury.
You got to think about, too, the teams that are traveling back and forth. I mean, I know we still got a couple, I think, of 1 or 2 games that we have to travel back to the West Coast, if I remember correctly. I believe. I know we obviously have to go out to the Midwest. But, for teams like the Rams, for example, I think the Rams are the most traveled team this season, going from West Coast to East Coast. So, add the travel, add all that weirdness. You got 1 day travel now where you see 2 days. So you figure you travel Saturday, you get ready to play Sunday, you head back home on Sunday. So, you're just opening the door to getting sick, and hopefully things will get better. I mean, I don't know how they're going to make it any better. And obviously, they're going to have to think of some sort of bubble scenario when it comes to the playoffs, and we're far from it right now. But it's tough for the players. I mean, you're right. It's like when it comes to the Bills, that's a tough road. Tuesday into Thursday, you only get 1 day off, and man, I feel for the guys, but it's what the NFL decided to do, and hopefully they make things a little bit better.
Well, the 49ers, just before last week playing the Eagles, they went to the Meadowlands back-to-back weeks against the Jets and the Giants. Or it was like 2 out of the 3 weeks, something like that. I mean, just imagine all that. Jet lag. Twice in 1 week. Thanks, Tom.
But out there, the Rams traveled 19,000 miles in 1 day. They're getting their air mileage in for points. I mean, that's a lot of freaking travel. So I feel bad for the teams. I mean, we're Eagles fans, but we do talk about around the NFL, and it's tough. And, I know they've had a condensed year. I know they don't get enough time to take off to kind of rest their bodies. A lot of teams are injury plagued right now, and just add COVID, it makes it 1,000 times worse. So as the season progresses, it will get much more interesting. There's a clip here I want to show with Brandon Graham. He talks about the defense and how it needs to get a little bit better. So I'm going to show the one here for Brandon. And there's another funny one that, as tough as this team has been, and not be down on, because we're realistic. If we don't see the team doing well, it's what we do with fans. We don't get upset as podcast things that way too. It's unfortunate when they don't do well. We let Philly know it, and you know it. But here's Brandon Graham with the injury and what he expects for this week.
I feel like we've been doing some great things so far, but, I know that it's a lot of room for improvement because obviously, we got to make sure we take over these games a little more because I feel like we haven't even hit it all the way yet because Hargrave, who's, finally now feeling really good. He didn't have a camp, but, I mean, obviously he's feeling really good now. He's kind of caught up to speed a little bit. Derek Barnett, same here. We're a lot more healthier up front, and it's on us to take it into another gear. I don't see it stopping unless we do it ourselves.
From my high school coach, from my college coach at LSU, they always taught me, to be a defensive back. And by me saying that, being a guy who can play corner, both left and right, who can play safety, who can play nickel and play dime, that way, if anything does ever happen, you got a guy who can fill a role.
Yeah, man, it got left behind last week. Unfortunately, it was actually Cravon's responsibility to bring it, and he's brought it every game except for the last one. We had the most turnovers this far to date, so I don't know if the ski mask will make a return or we'll leave it behind again for good luck.
They're really excited, really happy. Thankfully, because we played Sunday Night Football, they were able to watch the game at like 11 a.m. So they didn't have to wake up in the crack of dawn to watch me play. So, yeah, they were pretty stoked and pretty excited.
Don't think I ain't gonna come get you. I'm coming to get you. Oh, yeah, 7-5. I see you on film, boys. Don't worry, folks. I'm coming. 2-8. You too slow for me, man. You little dog.
He ain't blowing hot there, I promise you. Now he gonna do it the whole game. Hey, next play. All right, gotta get 3 and out. 3 and out right here, all right? Hey, hey!
Yeah,
Next play,
I
let's
know,
go.
I know, I got you. You know I'm with you, Flex.
All right.
Tell you what, Brandon Graham, he is hilarious, man. He gets into your face, but he's funny. We're still between Cox. I mean, we talked about it beforehand, where we haven't seen this defense kind of getting to where they're supposed to be. But now, last week's game, it seemed like it's making that turn, and I'm hoping they'll keep up the same way today in Pittsburgh. I know they're supposed to get rain up there possibly today. I know looking out my studio window here, we were getting some rain earlier down here in Tampa, but it looks like they're finally starting to click. Like things are starting to come into place. And I don't want to see the today, but this defense is starting to kind of come together.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Eagles are ranked number 1 in defense in the league. I believe Steelers are number 2, so it's probably the 2 best defensive lines in the game. It just took a few weeks for this team to gel. Once again, I'll go back to no preseason, no OTAs, no mini camps. Those guys are just finally, hopefully, turning the corner and starting to gel. If they can get the Big Ben today, let that pocket collapse and knock him around. If it'll knock him out of the game. Not to wish harm on any, hurt anybody, but I mean that would be a big key. Just Gerald Avery and Josh Sweat. I think Josh Sweat has about 5 sacks in the way so far this year. It's like flying under the radar under Malik Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. So especially the NASCAR package with the wide 9 with Jim Schwartz. You get to the quarterback and create turnovers like they did last week. They didn't have no turnovers up until last week. Whole season, now we got 3. So it's a start. So hopefully it's a step in the right direction, and the offensive line can give Carson some time today. And, hopefully these young receivers like John Hightail, those guys will step up today and make a name for themselves.
We saw that I believe Quez Watkins was made active today as well. So we're, I think again I referred it earlier to Jonathan Hightower. He's saying that the game's finally slowed down for him. So I mean, we got obviously a young wide receiver core, and we hope that today, you're right as far as the O line will end up stepping up for Carson Wentz today, and it's going to take time. Unfortunately, I didn't predict this season or this year that Eagles will make the playoffs. I know, of course, a lot of people end up doing so, but I think they're still a C grade team, and they've been showing it since the beginning of the season. Unless they make an outstanding run, I mean, I just don't see it. But hopefully they'll get better as time progresses here. There's two comments here, and one that someone's been pretty quiet, but once again, Mike Sherman, Steelers win 31-21 today. Yeah, well, Mike was incorrect last week, so let's see if he's incorrect again this week, and hopefully that the Eagles will pull it off. But and who knows? Who knows?
I called it last week. Eagles 20-16. I wasn't off by much.
No, you sure won't. You sure won't whatsoever. And Tom says that Garoppolo's playing today for the Niners, which I'm pretty sure that's a welcome for them, because that what they went through last week with that round robin of quarterbacks, that was something else last week.
Almost looked like the old school body bag game. Shame
exactly.
Not knocking out Beathard, any of those other guys.
No, it's true. But I want to show here that so Darius Slay was recorded earlier this week. I guess having some fun as much as he possibly can and try and get this team back up to a place where they start feeling good. And so I thought it was kind of funny how he called out one player, but it wasn't obviously nothing super intentional. But I think it's pretty funny.
How was that trip different Well, it was light because it was different because of the fact that I couldn't have the rookies pay for me a dinner. That's what's different, you know. I already had in my mind that I'm going to show this 42-inch vert I got, and I was ready to jump.
Robin and Tim.
They always try to say, Slay said, hey, I'm trying to play the season. I like to go travel. I like my rookies to go get me a nice little steak, you know, so something good, and a good butter cake, you know, some Del Frisco's. 42 inches.
Hey, Slay.
Yeah.
Hey, Slay.
Got a finger? Rave it up.
All right, thanks, Slay. Appreciate it.
Greg Ward, this is Slay. And my question is, why are you so ugly? But you my dog, though. Love you.
Darius.
You have to have fun no matter which way you look at it. I mean, these guys are, yes, they're paid a lot of money. Yes, they're obviously they have to step up, but yeah, in the process too, you got to have fun. At least that's the way I saw it in that clip. So, you know, things could be a lot worse for this team. We're hoping that we will see a nice turnaround come this game. It could finally be that at least quick pace offense. I don't want to say fast, but a quick pace offense. I'm expecting a lot again from the wide receivers. At least Miles Sanders should have a good day attempting to pound the ball on the ground, as minus any turnovers and barring any goofy penalties. I think the Eagles should be able to at least take this game 23-21. Just my own feeling.
I agree. I think it's less than a field goal. Yeah, it's the NFL. You take a win any way you can get it. And the way this division's going, who the hell knows? I mean, Dallas shouldn't even have a win. But thanks to that idiot on Atlanta, I want to get started.
They shouldn't. No, you're right. They shouldn't have the win. And I mean, it's funny how they are. And Atlanta seemed the same exact way too. I mean, Atlanta should be just completely embarrassed. And how their head coach isn't fired yet is beyond me. Because you look at Atlanta and the losses that they have had. I mean, you got Bill O'Brien who was let go over to Houston, Texas. So I don't understand how in the world Atlanta keeps their head coach. I don't know. Maybe Art has. I don't know. I don't want to see something on the head coach, but either it's the money or something else. Or you just pay the man and putting your assistant head coach in there as far as head coach, because Atlanta right now is looking atrocious. We were looking equally as bad, but I think Atlanta is actually looking a lot worse than what we are at this point.
Terrible. Talk about discombobulated, no cohesiveness. That team's all over the place. Maybe Dan Quinn has some pictures on our blank or something. I don't know.
Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Who knows? But we're getting close to game time here, and I thank everyone who tuned in. Again, we apologize for the audio technical issues that we had in the very beginning, and it will get better, folks. Believe me, it's a lot to deal with in a small amount of time. And when you go live, different places, sometimes noise, things can happen. So I do appreciate everyone tuning in. I appreciate everyone just dealing with the technical audio. It will get better as the show goes on. So it's just the way it works. We're not an actual studio like your ESPN places or radio stations. So we deal with it as best as we possibly can. But we do thank you for everyone's patience and everyone coming back and tuning in, liking, sharing the page. The comments that were made today, very small comments compared to last week, but we still appreciate the comments. Tom, Mike, and everyone else that like to tune in. So we, of course, Maggie's, we thank them as well for allowing us to come out there today. And we hope from this point forward, we'll be at Maggie's as far as on location. At one point, I may end up being back down to Tampa Joe's for a game. Of course, my producer is still nursing her injury, so we hope that her foot continues to get better. Thankfully for me, the stitches came out, which makes it even better for me because I don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. But Tom, thank you. Good show here. I appreciate it. But we appreciate the encouragement. We really do. So Tampa Joe's, of course, is the official sponsor of Broad Street South Sports Talk, and we do appreciate Mike Goodwin and his group. And of course, the Philly fan base is down there with Mike Klein's group, Philly of the South. And so we're hoping they're making noise and getting the place rowdy and ready. And we do miss you guys down there. We will be back down there shortly. Again, it's a fun place. It's a fun bar. I mean, it's inside, outside. And, we wish you can pack the restaurant side as well, but normally they end up packing up the restaurant side as the season continues. But before we go, because we try to usually put on a little Eagles hype video. Well, this time, instead of putting an Eagles hype video, I think we should just go back down to normally what we're listening to, which is something that here at Lincoln Financial Field, and that we love.
Score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high.
Let's just hope. Let's just hope that we're singing that same song on many touchdowns today. But again, thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. Again, if you missed the show, you can always go back and look for it on Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like, sharing the page. You guys again. We can't make the show happen again. Thank you to our guest, Adam Bittner from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And, of course, my brother Jimmy Seltzer from Go Birds. And we will see you guys at halftime. So thank you for the extended show. We thank you guys for viewing it. We thank you guys for doing everything you can to make it possible. And, Mike, we will be back at the half. I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, things will get better. So it's just the way it works sometimes.
Now we got through the difficulties. Knock on wood. And the birds pulled off tonight.
What's your final? I don't think I got a final pick from you.
23.
Okay. All right. Less than a field goal as well. So we will see all you guys back at the half. And again, we appreciate it. We'll see you guys about another 2.5 hours or so from now.